The Monster of Gotham. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 301 Earth 2, Lexunhu 1994 Award plus 1/2. 2022-1018 Chapter 301 Earth 2, Lexunhu 1994 Awards, and adds 12 chapters. Batman folded up his glider, landed on the roof, and ran 2 more steps before he stopped completely. He had been to the former Batcave, but unfortunately there was only a wasteland left, and Wayne's old house seemed to have evaporated. After returning to the Assassin's League, marrying his beloved Talia al Ghul, and spending his honeymoon, Gotham has changed a lot. He now has a lot to investigate. Penguin. Batman squatted upstairs and saw his old friend. It seems that he has been doing well without Batman. Penguin should be attending a party with countless luxury cars at the door. Maybe Bruce Wayne should attend this party. The young model standing next to him has but that is just the height of Penguin's head, which is destined to be a big battle in the evening. A certain flightless bird will be in trouble tonight. He shot the rope gun and his body fell rapidly. Bang! The Dark Knight fell from the sky and smashed on the front hood of the luxury car. His cape spread out, like falling from the night sky. Penguin and the young model were startled. While the car glass was shattered, the car door opened and hit Penguin's face. He covered his big nose and got up from the ground. Bruce, Batman. Penguin looked at the Dark Knight who suddenly appeared in front of him, a little dazed. "Can you talk to me?" Batman said in his usual low and hoarse voice. "What do you want to talk about?" Penguin adjusted his suit, tapped the ground with his umbrella in his hand, pretending to be calm. "No matter which Batman you are not welcome here." Batman was puzzled. Which one? With his brain, he could think of countless possibilities in an instant. "Now you are more notorious than me." Batman. Penguin turned around. He could see that the other party was at a loss. "You'd better run away quickly before the police find you." There were sirens in the distance. As Penguin said, the police are looking for Batman, and he is the biggest criminal in history. To leave first, Batman had to give up the opportunity to have a good talk with his old friend. The rope gun took Batman away from the spot, followed by the sirens. It was not until 4 or 5 blocks later that Batman got rid of the police who were chasing him. What happened? His first thought was that someone in this city pretended to be him and did something incredible. As a detective, find out the key to all the problems. Or, let the Assassin's League investigate. Whoosh! A cold arrow blocked Batman's way. The snow in the winter was very thick, and the moonlight sprinkled on the snow on the roof, so bright that you could see the face of a person a few meters away. A purple figure, holding a crossbow in one hand. The sexy curves of the body blocked Batman's way. Huntress. She opened her mouth lightly and panted, exhaling bursts of white air. "My daughter." Batman dived towards Huntress, and the batarang shot out in an instant, heading straight for Huntress's head. One leg front flip, flexible like a ballerina's body, allows Huntress to easily complete such a dazzling and handsome move, dodging batarangs and shooting arrows at the same time. Batman could also easily dodge arrows. It was as if they knew which angle of their bodies the other party was aiming at, and they knew how to dodge, so when they shot at each other, no one was hit. There was only the squeaking sound of boots stepping into the snow on the roof, accompanied by the floating of the cape, making an unstable rhythm. While attacking each other, they were getting closer to each other. The battle also changed from the tentative attack of crossbows and batarangs to fist fighting. Boom. Fists collided with fists. Compared with the strong man, the Huntress was not very strong. She stepped back half a step, grabbed Batman's wrist with her hand, fixed her left foot, twisted her waist suddenly, and half turned her body to carry Batman's arm on her shoulder. Over the shoulder throw. Snap. Batman pressed her back with his left hand to stop his feet from slipping, and pressed his hand on the Huntress's back to prevent himself from falling. After failing to hit, the Huntress suddenly raised her right leg and kicked Batman's instep with her heel. In a fight, stomping can only be regarded as a small trick that makes people shine, but as long as the opponent's skills are not too bad, this action will not have any meaning, but will put herself in danger. Sure enough, She stepped on the air, and Batman pushed his knee forward and hit the back of the Huntress's knee. The Huntress's knee was it. If she fell to the ground, she would be trapped. Obviously, she knew this. But she didn't struggle. Instead, she sank her knees to the ground and kneeled forward faster. Don't forget that she still grabbed Batman's arm, and with the force of kneeling forward, she threw over her shoulder again. A tactic that hurts the enemy 1,000 times and hurts yourself 800 times. Batman was indeed thrown to the ground by carelessness. The Huntress rolled in the snow and she also fell heavily. She gritted her teeth and endured the coldness hitting her skin. Her right hand had touched the batarang that Batman carried with him. She pushed her knees against the ground, bounced up, and rushed towards Batman. She used all her strength to stab at Batman's head. Batman rolled away, kicked the Huntress with his thigh, and quickly got up. But before he could stand firm, there were two more whoosh and whoosh sounds, and the crossbow arrows broke through the air. Batman twisted his neck to avoid the arrows, but he caught a glimpse of the purple boots kicking towards his head. He hugged the leg with his arms, and threw it hard. Boom. The Huntress's back hit the large air conditioner on the roof, and the ground was slippery, so she didn't stand up immediately. At this point in the fight, the winner was already determined. "My daughter, is this your ability?" He walked towards the Huntress and looked down at him. "You will taste it well." The Huntress rolled sideways and shot two more arrows. Batman said, "It's not good to use this trick too much. As long as I can kill you, it doesn't matter how many times I use it." She jumped up again, dodging Batman's darts, squatting on the air conditioner, panting. The close battle just now had exhausted both of them. Their lungs were breathing rapidly, and the hot air they exhaled turned into white mist when it met the cold. Before her body had finished resting, she rushed towards Batman again. Just a few blocks away from the rooftop where Huntress and Batman were fighting, a mysterious man with a bandage on his head was watching all this with a telescope. He said to himself, "It's really interesting." "So, it's you?" The voice came from behind him, and the voice sounded very angry. The mysterious man put down the telescope and turned to look at Batgirl, who appeared silently behind him. She questioned, "It's you who has been using various plans to make this city worse?" "Oh, Batgirl, there will always be someone to inherit his will." The mysterious man's voice was mixed with dissatisfaction and even hatred. Batgirl quickly rushed towards the other party. She needed to make a quick decision. During this time, she has been investigating non-stop. She knows that someone is behind this, but when she puts all the information together, she finds that there is no connection between each case. The only connection may be that the city is getting worse. The reason she can come here is that she received a letter. Just a dozen minutes ago, a woman who claims to be Amanda Waller told her that she has found the root cause of the city's increasing chaos. There is a person who is the pusher, and he enjoys the feeling of destroying the world. Of course, there may be other reasons, but the other party's purpose seems to be simply to make the city worse. The worst thing is that he knows how to use every talent in Gotham. He knows that Harley Quinn is with Poison Ivy, that Poison Ivy has a potion that can control others, and that Harley Quinn knows the identity of Supergirl. And what he did was just to offer a condition that Harley Quinn could not refuse at the moment. Most of the recent events are like this, a supervillain who can make the city worse, and a condition that the supervillain cannot refuse. As long as there is a big thing happening, there must be this guy peeking around. Batgirl's uppercut from bottom to top was blocked instantly. The other party is very strong. Boom. The mysterious man rushed forward, forcing himself to take advantage of his physical fitness, and knocking over Batgirl. She got up, and her fiery red hair was covered with a large piece of white snow. "It's not time to reveal the mystery yet," he said, preparing to leave. "It's not up to you." Batgirl threw the bat dart and looked in the direction of the Huntress in the distance. Although she couldn't see the other party with her naked eyes, she believed that the other party knew that she was here and had entangled with the culprit. Now, Batgirl only needed to delay the other party and then wait for the Huntress to solve her own troubles and come to solve this trouble together. No, this idea is wrong. She shook her head, and her fiery red hair shook off the snowflakes that were stained when she rolled on the ground. "I'm Batgirl. Maybe you don't know who the Huntress is with." The mysterious man was forced to stay because of the bat dart, but he still looked very leisurely. It is a taboo to ask the enemy during a battle. If you are confused because of this, it may cause huge trouble, but she still asked, "Who?" "Batman." Boom. The huntress spit out blood and fell to the ground. Who? The towering chest was panting rapidly. Regardless of whether the man on the other side was a fake or not, at least in terms of fists and fighting skills, it was certain that he was real. In terms of fighting level alone, they might be almost the same, but the other party's strength advantage as a man made this not much difference extremely large. "I don't remember that I had a daughter." Batman walked to the side of the huntress, and his boots were less than 30 centimeters away from the huntress's face. The huntress just looked at him with murderous eyes. Batman lowered his head, looked down at her and said, "It seems that there is a misunderstanding between us. Did this make you decide to pretend to be my daughter?" "He knew you would show up," the huntress said, taking the opportunity to recover her strength. "Him? Batman, my father," said the huntress. Batman shook his head. He thought the huntress was mentally ill. "I'm Batman, but I only have one son, born to my wife, Talia al Ghul." "Talia al Ghul? The League of Assassins?" The huntress grinned, blood staining her upper and lower teeth red. "So, you are not even the real Batman, but a fake one, who was instilled with false memories by that crazy woman. I never remember that Batman would be like you." Batman's voice remained the same. "It's time to talk about why you call yourself my daughter." "No, I'm Bruce Wayne's daughter, Batman's daughter." She rolled violently and shot an arrow, "But it's not yours." Swoosh. Batman leaned back and let the arrow fly into the sky, brushing the tip of his nose, and fell to the ground after drawing a huge arc. "No one, are you ready?" She covered her chest and hid very far away. The infrared ray aimed at Batman's chest from a long distance. "Sniper?" "No." The red dot came from the sky. Batman looked up at the sky. There was nothing in the sky, but something was wrong. The snow on the ground was shaking slightly. It was a windless night, and snowflakes should not be flying. But now there were snowflakes flying in certain areas, which meant that there was something above his head. The stealth function was turned off, and a purple machine that looked like a bat machine silently floated above his head. The infrared aiming was coming from the aircraft. Bang 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 bang! Exclamation mark. Fire suddenly broke out, and large caliber machine guns fired, and the sprayed flames almost illuminated the night sky. Metal bullets shot quickly, completely covering Batman at a speed of thousands per second. The flesh and blood body was beaten into a meat sieve in just 3 seconds. The huntress stood up and walked to Batman's body. Perhaps this pile of rotten meat could barely recognize Batman's appearance. "He's just a fake, Alfred," the huntress comforted the old butler at the other end. There was not much emotion in her voice. "I know, and besides, your companion is in trouble now." "Huntress? Companion?" The huntress was stunned by this title. "Where is it?" "Not far from you." The huntress ran 2 steps quickly and jumped onto the purple aircraft. The meat on the roof was left behind. Everything was just like that summer when the huntress with a crossbow killed her target. She was very nervous at the time, afraid that Batman would find out. Soon Batman came, but he did not come from the door or the window. Instead, he appeared directly in front of her. She never remembered that Batman had the superpower of teleportation. The other party said bluntly that he came from another Earth, and he needed a Batman who could kill people. As the last insurance, she would accept all Batman's training, but the meaning of her existence was to kill Batman. In Batman's plan, every superhero would respond to the plan, and so would he, but he was more afraid that he would lose control and defeat all his Justice League companions. If anyone on Earth knew that he defeated all the members of the Justice League with a mortal body, they might laugh for a while. But the laughing bat incident showed that he could indeed do it. And in countless universes, the Batman of the Dark Knights who destroyed the world have proved all this countless times. She was not able to catch up with the Batman who laughs incident this summer, but she came to Gotham to eliminate all evil. Whether it's the fake Batman or the supervillain, they all have to pay a price. With Huntress, they only have to pay the price of their lives. This world is Earth 1, and Huntress is from Earth 2. She just thinks that this world needs her more, a Batman who thinks longer term than her own world. Reinforcement are coming. The bandaged mysterious man looked up and looked at the purple aircraft that flew over his head without any concealment. A fist came over with a whirring sound, and the mysterious man took a half step back to avoid the fist. He rolled down the stairs and disappeared. You should leave him behind. Batgirl looked up. She knew who was inside. No, I think I already know who he is. The huntress extended an olive branch. Are you free? Batgirl raised an eyebrow. Oh. Don't forget, we are still in the game. The huntress recalled what Alfu had said just now and said, maybe we can put that matter aside. The mysterious man in bandages rushed into the alley quickly. Although this battle was sudden, it was generally not beyond his expectations. He still came and left as he wanted. Even the progress of things surprised him. This city, it won't take too long. He tried hard not to laugh out loud. The mysterious man suddenly stopped and looked ahead. The alley was dark, but he keenly noticed that there was someone there. Assassin's League. Talia al Ghul, we should be even between us, he whispered. He was surrounded with a total of more than a dozen assassins. Every assassin in the Assassin's League is a master of combat, a master of concealment, and proficient in martial arts and assassination techniques from various countries. Batman was once one of the best students in the Assassin's League. Being blocked in an alley by them is definitely not a good thing. The assassin holding a short blade in one hand quickly dodged and made way. The person who came said, at critical moments, supercriminals always escape, and superheroes will not chase them. It's like a tug-of-war, no one can win, and then the supercriminals who escaped jump out again, and it goes on and on. The mysterious man recognized the person who came, Toyman. The one who came in the crowd at this moment was Li Zhu. The mysterious man said with a mocking tone, there is no conflict of interest between us, or does saving the world make you really think you are a hero? Do you want to arrest a supercriminal like me? I don't think so, Jingmo. I just feel a little disgusted with you for causing trouble for me endlessly. Jingmo, when he said this name, he almost revealed the other party's identity. When he said causing trouble, all the assassins around drew their blades. The non-reflective blades were like the teeth of a venomous snake, which was chilling. I guess you are definitely not planning to kill me. When Jingmo said this, he didn't have much confidence. Maybe? Several battles last night were swallowed up in the darkness. A brand new day. Helena Wayne, wearing a professional suit, quickly signed several authorizations handed over by the secretary along the way, and pushed open the door of her office. She sat down, holding her chin with one hand. The index finger of her right hand gently tapped the table. Tap, tap, tap. Thomas Elliot. Helena raised her voice and said to the secretary, help me make an appointment with Thomas Elliot. We can find a place to have dinner tonight. Yes, the secretary was very efficient. A few minutes later, she trotted back. Mr. Elliot said that he has an operation in New York and must rush there immediately, so I'm sorry that dinner tonight may disappoint you. As she said that, she raised her eyelids and secretly looked at Helena, and then quickly drooped her eyelids. Helena Wayne is famous for being cold and aloof. She actually took the initiative to ask a man out for dinner today, and what's more surprising is that the man rejected her. Seeing Helena frown, the secretary lowered her head even more. Then help me make an appointment with Miss Barbara Gordon. I'm very interested in her quantum computer. Maybe we can have dinner together tonight. Yes, the female secretary quickly opened the door and left, thinking to herself, please, don't refuse me this time. Chapter 302, The Long Avenue. Late at night, a plane spread its steel wings. Its destination is New York. The strong man in the first class cabin sat by the window, watching the city with dim lights getting smaller and smaller, until the last ray of light disappeared from his sight. He lowered his head and looked at the newspaper in his hand. Batman returns to Gotham. 3 consecutive big question marks occupied most of the newspaper. This man was Thomas Elliot, who was anxious to leave Gotham City. As the culprit who messed up the entire city, he had to leave Gotham now. It's really hard to refuse. Thomas Elliot couldn't help laughing, looking gloomy and hideous. The stewardess happened to come over. Sir, is there anything I need? Elliot showed a gentle and hearty smile, completely different from the gloom just now. A glass of water, thank you. Please wait a moment, the stewardess blushed. There were not many passengers on the late night flight, and Thomas Elliot was the only one in the first class cabin. In addition, Elliot was in a good mood at the time, so they naturally chatted. As a member of the 4 major families in Gotham, Bruce Wayne, him, and even the Penguin all have their own ways of communicating. After a short exchange, the stewardess had guessed his identity from the clues that Thomas deliberately revealed. "Are you a doctor?" Her eyes subconsciously glanced at the wrist of the customized Thomas Elliot. The top fully mechanical custom watch was not a big brand, but the last person who wore this watch was Bruce Wayne. To be precise, a plastic surgeon. Thomas looked up and down at the stewardess and frowned. The stewardess was a little nervous. "What's wrong with me?" Thomas Elliot said. "If you come to my hospital, I will definitely not welcome you." The stewardess seemed even more nervous. "Ah, why?" "Because, a beauty like you, I can't even think of earning a penny." Although it was a very ordinary joke, the stewardess was still shaking. "Haha, you are so humorous. Do you have time?" she invited. "I still have 2 days of vacation in New York." Thomas Elliot smiled again. "Of course. Then I have the honor to invite you to take me around New York." "With pleasure." Gotham City Elementary School. Shirley entered the classroom with a backpack and came to her window seat. Although Gotham has been in frequent situations in recent days, the fact that it is time to go to school has not been greatly affected. Putting down the school bag, Shirley thought of what Lizu handed to her when she left this morning and subconsciously pursed her lips. It is estimated that few students are willing to bring guns to school or small toys such as axes and spears, let alone rocket launchers. For safety, she recalled the scene when Lizu said safety while grabbing a sandwich with his left hand and stuffing it into his mouth, and casually took down the unsold bazooka hanging on the wall with his right hand and handed it to her. Before that, her backpack was already full of liquors and tyrants. The toy store's business has always been bad, and it should be said that it has never sold a single one. The deep divers and gals placed on both sides of the entrance made the toy store look like a haunted house. What's more, the problem is not just this. First of all, big brand manufacturers such as Lego have their own physical stores, and the quality is guaranteed at the same price. Moreover, customers who need toys are more willing to buy online, which is not only convenient, but also delivered to their door. Secondly, although the toys sold by Lizu are very powerful, judging from their appearance, they are very cheap plastic toys, the grade that no one wants. If they are sold on the street, no matter how high-end the store is, it is useless if the goods are low grade. Finally, now the latest toy is the game console. Shirley turned her neck and looked at several boys holding the latest red and blue handle game consoles and playing them enthusiastically, and hesitated in her heart how to tell Lizu this news. Electronic games, whether it is computers or game consoles, are the main force. In comparison, toys are slowly becoming a niche group. "Shirley, dear, it's great to see you." Shirley was hugged by someone first, and then she heard a voice. It was Kitty, one of their 4 sisters. "Me too." Shirley pushed Kitty away with effort and then nodded to Corey and Anna. The two of them had a somewhat indifferent attitude towards her, especially Anna, who was very distant. Kitty seemed to suddenly remember, and she said, "By the way, there's a birthday party at Anna's house tonight. Do you want to come?" Shirley looked at Anna. Although she didn't know why she suddenly became so distant, she was ready to nod. "Shirley must have something tonight, right?" Anna said first. "That's right." Shirley nodded. She could see that Anna didn't want to go alone. "I have to go home early today." "Is that so?" Kitty said regretfully. "I really hope you can go with us. We have known each other for so long and rarely separate. Actually, we are not that close. After all, we have only been together for a few months." Kelly interrupted Kitty directly. "Kelly." Kitty frowned. She didn't like what Kelly said. The classroom door opened. Wally West, who was wearing a sportswear, stood at the door and turned his head. Finally, he saw the 4 people and walked over. Anna clenched her fists, took a deep breath, walked forward and stopped Wally. "Classmate West, do you have time tonight?" Wally was stunned when he was suddenly asked. He didn't think he had a good reputation among girls. Troublemaker and bad boy were almost his titles. And every time he made a little move, the girls would chase him relentlessly. If this is considered good popularity with women, he must be too popular with women. "Tonight, me." Wally pointed at the tip of his nose, a little bit unbelieving. Of course. What's the matter? It's my birthday today. I will hold a party at my house. If you have time, maybe you can come. Anna lowered her head and tugged at the corner of her clothes a little shyly. With her angelic and lovely face, her shy appearance has made many boys subconsciously put down their game consoles and look at her. After saying that, Anna raised her head and looked at Wally West again, with expectation in her eyes. Wally did not nod at the first time, but asked Shirley Birkin, "Well, Shirley, are you going?" "I don't have time tonight." Shirley shook her head. Wally understood. "Then I won't go either." His straightforward attitude made Anna, who was full of expectation a second ago, widen her eyes. Although she was unhappy in her heart, Anna quickly said, "She will go, right, Shirley?" As she said that, she looked at Shirley. Feeling the other party's pleading eyes, Shirley nodded. "I'll try my best." "Great." Kitty hugged Shirley excitedly, happy that her good friend suddenly had time to come and get together. "Really? Then I'll go too." Wally West nodded. This might be just a small matter for him. "By the way, Shirley, I have something to talk to you about. Can you come out for a while?" Wally looked a little embarrassed, but his state made Anna's expression change. After Shirley followed Wally out, Anna's expression was uncertain in the noisy class. Tonight, someone will be the protagonist. She gritted her teeth, like the stars. "That person must be me." Outside the classroom door, Wally lowered his head, glanced at Shirley, and said cautiously, "Can I borrow some money?" "Borrow money? Wait." Shirley had already stretched out her hand to take out the money. "Why don't you ask me why I'm borrowing money?" Wally was very surprised. He said, "I borrowed a lot of money." "How much?" $400. This is not a small amount, but Wally has to grit his teeth every time he thinks of his ill-fitting fire suit or running with his butt naked. Some time ago, he saw a Flash fan making and selling a battle suit on eBay. It is said that he took into account the heat energy generated by friction when the Flash ran, as well as various factors such as comfort. That thing is what he urgently needs. Okay, Shirley had no intention of asking further questions. "I'm saving pocket money," Wally said. "I'll pay you back soon." Their family conditions are very ordinary. It will take several months to save up $400 in pocket money. After a day of classes, Shirley put on her bag and walked out of school again. She had to go home to prepare a little, although Anna didn't seem to want her to go, but just hoped that Wally West could go. Opening the door, as expected, Lizu was lying on the sofa and wasting time. The TV seemed to be locked on the news channel. It could also be that this channel was more helpful for sleeping. Every time Shirley came home, she found that Lizu was watching this channel. To be more precise, he stopped at this channel and went to sleep. Although this city has become a little worse, we have an obligation to make it better. Future technology company is bringing changes to this city. In the TV broadcast, employees dressed in workers' clothes drove bulldozers with smiles on their faces, digging up the greenery along the road from Gotham City to the suburbs, that is, to Arkham Asylum, and planned to build a new overpass on this basis, as well as 3 office buildings. Subsequent reconstruction is being planned. Interrupt and urgent news. The female host took a press release. She glanced at the camera nervously and began to read the script. Harley Quinn robbed a jewelry store. The police are continuing to chase her. Now they are chasing on Harley Quinn Yo-Yo Boulevard. When reading the name of this road, the female host paused. If there are citizens who need to drive into this newly built avenue, friendly reminder, put aside your plans for the time being. Gotham News wishes you good health. Shirley watched the news with her mouth wide open. Harley Quinn Yo-Yo Boulevard? What did she do? Rob, and then buy the naming rights for a road in Gotham. Although this behavior is crazy, now everyone in Gotham knows that this Harley Quinn is Yo-Yo, not Harley Quinn. Back. Lizu woke up at this time. Shirley closed her mouth and quickly recovered, looking at Lizu. Sleeping for a long time is not good for your health. I'm training. Lizu pointed to his head and said, "It's at a critical moment. I'm going out later," she said. "A classmate has a birthday and held a party." "Birthday party? Go, be careful, and don't forget to wear your toys," Lizu urged. Since the Zeus incident, Shirley's safety has become a matter of special attention. B, which cannot be controlled by the virus, is the absolute master of biological weapons. Lizu can't afford to lose Shirley. Lizu glanced at the TV and naturally saw Harley Quinn. Yo, she bought a road in Gotham City? This is really Harley Quinn. A few minutes later, Shirley, who had changed her clothes, pushed the door and left. A slight sound of wind was heard from behind the sofa, and there was a slight sound of the sofa falling to the ground. If you didn't hold your breath and listen carefully, you wouldn't notice it at all. An assassin appeared in the room without you noticing. The assassin half knelt on the ground and reported, "Thomas Elliot has arrived in New York. Arrived just now." Facing Lizu's question, the assassin replied, "He made an appointment with a woman and wasted a lot of time. Killing time or delaying time. Forget it. We talk about human rights." Lizu stood up from the sofa. "Is the news reliable?" He was asking about something else. The assassin replied, "The information of the Assassin's League has been verified many times, and it can be confirmed that Black Adam was finally sealed in Times Square by Shazam. It was already 8 o'clock in the evening, the sky was dark, and it was cloudy today. Without street lights, it would be difficult to move. The party at Anna's house had just begun." Shirley put down the gift she bought on the road, and Anna did not intend to take her gift, but just pointed to the pile of gifts beside her. Anna was dressed like a princess wearing stars tonight. Her long dress was decorated with diamonds and sequins, and her special birthday crown made her face look even more lovely and beautiful. Anna had good interpersonal relationships, and her beautiful face had an incomparable advantage in communication. Most of the people who came here were of the same age, mostly from the same school, but there were also many from other places, or teenagers who were a few years older. At the children's party, the wine was replaced by juice and drinks, but there would definitely be no milk, because all the children didn't like to drink milk. Everyone talked about their own things, such as the game circle, the gossip circle, and all kinds of things. Shirley stood at the door and looked around, and finally she chose to go to the windowsill to admire the night sky. "Are you looking at the stars?" A little girl came over. She was slightly shorter than Shirley. She had black hair, beautiful facial features, and perhaps the most eye-catching thing was her beautiful eyes. The little girl looked out the window, but there are no stars tonight. She smiled, "But I guess you would rather guess what the stars behind the dark clouds will look like than guess what these people are thinking, right?" The little girl's joking words really hit Shirley's inner thoughts. "Hello, I'm Shirley, Anna's classmate. I came here secretly." The little girl raised her finger and made a hush gesture. "There are so many people here, so I sneaked in. You can call me Tracy." Tracy blinked. "Actually, I don't know Anna. It's okay." Shirley looked at Anna, who was walking in the crowd in the distance and lived like an adult in the 6th grade, and said, "I don't think she would care about these. Maybe this is the first time she really knows her friends. Whether it is Lizu or her, they are too indifferent to everything around them." Chatting with Tracy is very pleasant for Shirley. They are the ones who are deliberately ignored. If both of them are ignored, they will not seem too lonely. "I was looking for you nearby just now. Wally came over. Your friend is here. I should go too." Tracy waved to Shirley. "Goodbye." Goodbye. After waving her hand, Tracy had quietly slipped out of the crowd. No one noticed when a little girl appeared at the scene, and when she disappeared, Wally West walked up to Shirley and asked, "Who was that little girl just now?" "A friend I just met." Wally shrugged his shoulders. Perhaps he learned this action from his father. He said, "I've never been to such a party before." "Me too." Shirley tried to recall it. She found that her life was just going to school, and then one day she was injected with a G virus, and then her father mutated and killed her mother, and then the world fell into a zombie crisis. Lizu and Claire saved her, and they kept fleeing until they finally escaped from that world. In this world, they lived a life that was not stable, but not too bad. Do you know the Flash? Wally was about to talk about something, and his topic unconsciously turned to the Flash. "I saw that there is a Flash in your toy store, although his arm is broken." How much he wanted to tell his identity, but thinking of the superhero code, Wally had to hold back hard. "The Flash? He runs very fast." Shirley gave his evaluation. "No, the reason why the Flash runs so fast is because of the existence of the Speed Force. The Speed Force will..." Wally froze, and he closed his mouth when he looked at the bewildered Shirley. He was really afraid that he would not be able to hold back and tell the fact that he had the Speed Force in the next second. Boom. The door was suddenly kicked open. A strong man walked into the house with his head held high. The sudden situation made the atmosphere in the living room quiet instantly. "Excuse me, sir." Anna's father walked towards the other party, but the strong man raised his hand, pinched Anna's father's neck, and lifted him up like a chicken. Ugh. Anna's father grabbed the other's big hand with both hands, trying to break free. His legs kicked randomly in the air, but the lack of oxygen made his struggle weaker and weaker. "Arsehole." Wally gritted his teeth, and no one noticed the flash of lightning in his eyes. He wanted to rush up, but there were too many people present, and if he rushed up, he would definitely be exposed. The strong man threw Anna's father 5 or 6 meters away in an instant, knocked over the TV, vomited blood and fainted on the ground. Anna's mother was left. She rushed out with a shotgun, but the strong man took a step forward, quickly closed the distance between the two, and stretched out his hand to snatch the shotgun from the other's hand. Bang! The shotgun was pulled back, and Anna's mother was also knocked to the ground. "Is there anyone here called Anna?" The man looked around at the trembling children and asked, "Anna, is there anyone?" Facing a strong man over 2 meters tall with a shotgun in his hand, none of them dared to speak, but most people looked at Anna, who was dressed the most beautifully in the audience, like a princess. "You are wearing such a shiny dress, and covered with stars. It seems that it is you." The man walked towards Anna. "Ah." Anna burst into tears in fear. Her cry was like a fuse, instantly setting off the whole audience, crying. "Don't worry," the man said. "Stay with me first." He pulled Anna and pulled her to his side without allowing her to refuse, and looked around. "So, where is Shirley Birkin?" Everyone's eyes turned to Shirley again. The man looked at Shirley, or more precisely, at Shirley's backpack. "Give me the backpack." "Wait, don't move, I'll get it myself." The development of the matter was beyond everyone's expectations. The strong man forcefully broke into the birthday party. In addition to knocking out Anna's parents who tried to take the initiative, he only snatched Shirley's backpack. Then he left. Neither Shirley nor Anna were injured. Did he really come to steal the backpack? At the birthday party, only Anna was sobbing. "What should we do now?" someone asked. "Call the police. This birthday party would definitely not go on well." Wally stared at the door hatefully. He looked at Shirley and asked, "What's in your backpack?" "Some toys." Wally couldn't figure out why the strong man wanted to snatch Shirley's backpack. Was he a mentally ill guy? "I have to get those things back." Shirley rushed out the door quickly. "Wait." Wally followed him out, but looking at Shirley's back, he exerted his speed force with all his strength. A few seconds later, the Flash boy in a spacious fire suit appeared with an arc of electricity. "Thank you, Jiang Hu. I'm coming for the 500 starting coins reward." Chapter 303, Leader. Shirley quickly chased in the direction where the strong man appeared. She knew better than anyone what was in the backpack. The tyrant that could resist tanks, the absolute hunter, the liquor, the bazooka, the guns, etc. were countless. It can be said that a small backpack contained a small arsenal. The more serious problem was that in order for her to use these toys at any time, Lizu had stored energy in advance. With just one button, the toys could be transformed into top hunters. The tyrant and the hunter were weapons brought back from the zombie world, not the inferior toy dolls made by Lizu himself. Their demand for energy only existed in the transformation. After the transformation, they could maintain their form for a long time. The toys made by Lizu himself consumed his energy every minute and every second. If the tyrant and the liquor were released without anyone to control them, her student life would probably end early, and the world could also be declared to have entered the end of the world. As a combination of the G-Virus, Shirley had no other enhancements except for her strong physical recovery ability. Of course, this was compared with Alice, a combination of the T-Virus. The opponent had already completely defeated the tyrant in all aspects. The strong man obviously had a companion, and Shirley soon lost his trace. Should she find Lizu? This is a question. She knew that Lizu had always wanted to give away his toys, but the toys that Lizu wanted to give away or sell were not the kind in her hand. Standing on the empty road, Shirley admitted that she was a little confused. But soon, the confusion disappeared, and she felt the liquor appeared. The strong man left quickly with his backpack, ignoring the birthday party behind him. He remembered the words of the guide and ran away immediately as long as he robbed the backpack of the girl named Shirley. After running across a street, he quickly opened the car door and got into a car. Drive. The companion who led him immediately drove and approached their gathering point. Is there really a birthday party and there is a girl named Shirley at the birthday party? The companion looked at the backpack in the man's hand with uncontrollable excitement in his eyes. In the words of the guide, as long as they could grab this bag, they could get out of the sewer and no longer be limited to robbing convenience stores. In other words, they can finally fire their first shot in Gotham. Speaking of which, the first shot they really fired in Gotham should be when they robbed the Toyman store, but for some reason, the Toyman didn't bother them, and although they wanted to use the Toyman's fame to get ahead, they couldn't afford the price of being hated by the Toyman. How can she guess all this? The companion who was driving couldn't help asking, and his eyes glanced at the pink backpack again. Because she is the guide, so she can, the strong man replied. The two men in the car fell silent. Yes, the guide is like a witch. She didn't show any special abilities, but it was this omniscience that made them, a group of low-level criminals with only missiles, admire her, and even fear her. Who knows if she knows how to deal with herself? Or maybe she suddenly recites a spell and kills herself? This idea is absolutely groundless. If the guide really has this power, she can stir up trouble in Gotham by herself, so why do we need them? How about opening it and seeing what's inside? It must be said that the man driving the car was very curious. The strong man looked at the backpack in his hand with great entanglement. He had personally witnessed the power of those toys. Although they were only finger-sized figurines, they were definitely alive. In the words of the guide, the reason why the toys they stole could only become ordinary figurines was because they stole the wrong things. Now thinking back, they also regretted it very much. At that time, there were many toys hanging in the toy store, including heavy machine guns, rocket launchers, anti-tank guns, etc. If they got those things, they would definitely start a revolution now. Of course, the revolution would definitely be suppressed by the army in the end. Let them go back to steal from the toy man again, but no one had the courage, especially the brother who had been responsible for keeping watch and came back to report. Batman appeared and was beaten down by the toy man in an instant. This group of hooligans who had been struggling at the bottom of the society even fled away in a tumble, and they didn't even dare to continue the surveillance. Open it and see. Maybe she doesn't know. The driving companion suddenly hesitated. The guide was very powerful. After they opened the backpack, did she really not know? Let's talk about it when we get back. The strong man's words undoubtedly confirmed that he really didn't dare to take the risk of opening the backpack. The car stopped at a free parking lot under a hotel. The hotel's business was of course the best at night. After the two got off the car, they passed by an old red car and saw the car moving forward and backward, up and down. Hey. The driving companion kicked the tire of the car, laughed and drove away. The car window was lowered, and the sweaty man poked his head out of the window, raised his middle finger to the two burly men in the distance, and then retracted into the car, and the car window was raised. It didn't take long for the car to start vibrating again. Everyone has their own night. The two strong men walked into the alley next to the hotel, bypassed the trash can, lifted the manhole cover and crawled in. 10 people had been waiting here. During this period, their members had undergone tremendous changes. Some of them could not help but get arrested by the police, and some provoked other forces nearby and had their heads blown up in the crossfire. Another unlucky person had his testicles blown up and disappeared from the scene. The guide was sitting right above her. She was covered in a cloak, and only her chin could be seen. The things are here. The strong man put the pink backpack on the table. The scene was a bit funny. The 12 strong men stared at the pink schoolgirl backpack with rapid breathing, as if there was something inside that could stimulate them. The guide's hands were also shaking, and she opened the backpack. Ha 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 ha. Sure enough, there is more. Her voice sounded extremely excited. This? Someone asked, what is it? They found that the guide did not even look at the weapons, but instead held 4 or 5 ugly and weird toys, as if holding treasures. Could it be that these things were the guide's target? They did look much more refined than those weapons. This? The leader chuckled. The tremor in his voice disappeared silently, and he became a little arrogant. It will allow me to rule Gotham. Rule Gotham? Many people have tried to do this, but no one can do it, even the Joker, who is known as the king of crime in Gotham. She looked at several toys and finally decided on the liquor. Compared with the mass-produced T103, the liquor's appearance is definitely devilish. The button is not hidden obscurely. After a few long presses, she opened the toy. Goo, her hand holding the toy suddenly became sticky, and there was a bloody and rotten smell. The toy in her hand was struggling, and it quickly changed from a finger-sized key pendant to the size of a watermelon, then the size of a hound, and then the size of an adult. It broke free from the leader's hand, and smashed on the table. The juice wrapped on the surface splashed on the leader's face. There was no skin on the whole body, and the head was not protected by the skull. The brain was exposed and trembling, which was very creepy. The 5 nails on the front limbs transformed into huge claws, shining coldly. Just sweeping across the table was left with creepy scratches. This is a metal table. Is this a human? Someone found that the monster in front of them was similar to humans in many ways. Someone transformed humans into this kind of monster? Snap. A red line was drawn, and the strong man who had snatched the backpack felt his knees go weak, and fell to the ground. His head had exploded like a watermelon. Dead. The changes at the scene were beyond everyone's expectations. Someone immediately took out a gun, but they did not point it at the monster, but at the guide. Guide, what's going on? She can control the toys that come alive, and the previous soldier toys are evidence. Could it be that after the guide got what she wanted, she decided to kill people to silence them? It's not impossible. Shoot, kill this crazy woman first, and this monster, kill them together. But when the liquor pounced on the corpse with the exploded head, everyone looked at it at the same time. This monster was more threatening. There were 11 people left, only 4 of them had guns in their hands. The others drew their daggers, or put on brass knuckles, and pounced on the monster. The liquor's long tongue twisted slowly, it exerted force on its front limbs, and its body suddenly jumped onto the roof, using all 4 limbs to flexibly move on the wall like a gecko. What kind of monster is this? The ability that the liquor showed again made people unable to help but curse. Shoot, shoot, bang bang bang, exclamation mark. The space in the room was narrow, and the space for the liquor to hide was not large, but the small caliber pistol bullets sporadically hit the liquor's body, but did not cause any harm. Bang. Instead, the liquor pounced down, and took away another life. 2 people died in a row, and the monster was not afraid of bullets. The situation was beyond their tolerance. Ah. The first person screamed, and fled to the door, like a fuse, and almost everyone gave up resistance in an instant. They can fight all the time, but are still at the bottom of Gotham. This is also one of the reasons, lacking a fierceness. The liquor was faster than them. Its tongue shot out like an arrow, and pierced the ankle of the man running in front. The tongue retracted, and the man stumbled, and fell to the ground. As he fell, the others were tripped, and their escape speed was greatly affected. At this time, the liquor had already pounced on them. A dozen people were completely easy prey. The liquor was able to feast on them, and the T-virus also changed its body. The leader sat on the chair shivering. His hands and feet were cold. Ha! Exclamation mark. A strong wind blew, and the liquor had jumped back to the iron table. His body was more than twice as big as a few minutes ago. Like a lion, the long tongue slowly swept towards the hood of the leader, and the first thing to show was a big nose. She turned out to be a female teacher at Gotham Elementary School. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304, Female Biochemical Weapon. On the night of Maxie Zeus' death, besides Wally and Shirley, the only one who remained awake was the female teacher. The big-nosed female teacher still remembered that when she checked the toys that day, she saw the toys that Shirley carried with her. Because they were too ugly, she remembered them clearly. When Maxie Zeus was ready to control everyone, a giant who looked exactly like the toys appeared, and easily solved all the troubles with his unmatched fists. Since that day, the big-nosed female teacher's thoughts have changed. No, it should have never changed, but it made her more convinced. There is a clear division of capital in Gotham, and the matter of her husband's loan can no longer be delayed. If they delay it, they will not lose their husband's right thumb. Therefore, she easily investigated Shirley Birkin's home address by using her identity as Shirley Birkin's teacher. She went there in person and found that it was actually a toy store. In other words, Shirley Birkin's giant toy was actually taken out of the toy store. She didn't choose to spend money to buy it, so the black windbreaker giant was not on sale. Not to mention that people with this ability should never be unknown. She had lived in Gotham since she was a child and knew the quirks of the monsters in Gotham. There were lunatics guessing riddles on the street, so it was normal for her to open a toy store. After investigation, she found that Shirley Birkin's guardian was very similar to the toy man. It was not difficult to find a comparison object, but no one thought about it in this way. The big-nosed female teacher was very glad that she thought so. Comparing the newspaper with the real person, except for the clothes, they looked exactly the same. Maybe the police haven't caught the toy man yet because white people are face blind to yellow people. Before the debt collectors knocked on the door of her house again, she called the police in advance. Although this would anger the bastards, she at least saved her husband's hands and feet for the time being. She was determined to get that magical toy, so she bought a set of clothes, called herself a guide, and set her target on a group of hooligans who were not local to Gotham. It was only afterwards that she found out that these people actually had guns. For this reason, she was so scared that her back was soaked with sweat for several nights, and she had nightmares. With the dignity she gained as a teacher and her eloquence, she finally secured her position as the guide after she had told some mysteries and led this group of desperate ruffians to do some small things. If she let this group of people help her solve the debt collector problem, it would be easy, but that would inevitably reveal her true identity, and then these angry guys might not necessarily do anything to her. Robbing the toy store became her first goal. She also urgently needed an opportunity to prove that she was a guide, and whether the toys in the toy store could really become real also needed to be confirmed. If she was not afraid of being targeted by the toy man, she might really choose to spend money to buy 1 or 2 toys to solve the urgent problem. The robbery went smoothly, and the toy man was not in the store. But it was not smooth either. The things that this group of ruffians robbed back were not up to standard, and after the first robbery, the second time might not be so smooth. She didn't think that this group of people could really deal with the toy man. To be on the safe side, she even stopped contacting these guys for a while. As a price, her husband had 1 hand and 1 leg taken away. The remaining hand only had 4 fingers. The big-nosed female teacher, who was driven crazy by life, had to take action again. While teaching at school, she noticed Shirley Birkin's backpack and Anna's birthday that the students were promoting. Before she entered the classroom, she happened to hear Wally West and Shirley Birkin nodding and agreeing to go to the birthday party. This was her chance. Although it was crazy, it should be much easier to snatch a bag from a female student than from a toy man. Now, the bag was taken back, but the thing was out of her control. Her thoughts returned. She watched the liquor slowly open his mouth, and her vision fell into darkness. There is a liquor nearby. Shirley lowered her head. She could feel it, right under her feet. Crackling, a flash of lightning flashed, and a boy in a fire suit 1 size larger appeared in front of Shirley. "Do you need help?" Shirley looked at Wally West strangely. She recognized the person in front of her as her classmate at the first time, although she didn't know why the other party was dressed like this. No, she shook her head and refused. He patted his chest confidently. "Someone stole your backpack, but don't worry, Kid Flash will help you find it back." Shirley ignored him. She found a manhole cover, lifted it with great effort and lay down. "Hey." Kid Flash was startled. The legend of the sewer crocodile did not disappear because of the death of Killer Croc, but became more and more intense. He gritted his teeth and followed into the sewer. The sewer was not completely dark. The weak light was gray and barely visible. Tick tick tick. The old pipes were not sealed tightly, and water occasionally leaked. This place. Kid Flash rubbed his shoulders. He really wanted to persuade Shirley to leave, but when he thought of his identity, could Kid Flash retreat without a fight? No. so he had to continue to hold on. The air in the sewer was not ventilated, and the smell was extremely strong. Squeak. A mouse swam across the water, which made Kid Flash's hair stand on end. Luckily, it's just a rat. He patted his chest and looked at Shirley, only to find that she had gone far away. Wait. Kid Flash followed him in a flash. He would rather fight those big guys head on than walk in this dark sewer. After walking for another 5 minutes, Shirley stopped. Seeing someone, Kid Flash breathed a sigh of relief. Someone. I'll go over and take a look. Without waiting for Shirley to refuse, he turned into a flash and rushed over. The man was very strong, but he walked unsteadily. His calves seemed to be bitten by something, revealing the white bones. Sewer crocodile. Kid Flash shuddered. He looked up at the staggering man. The injuries on his body reminded him of the sewer crocodile at the first time. Roar. The other party roared meaninglessly and opened his hands to pounce on Kid Flash. The speed force was activated, and the other party's movements were almost still in Kid Flash's eyes. Still want to take the initiative? He confidently jumped back 2 steps, swung his arms, and punched the man who seemed to be moving so slowly in his eyes that he was as still as a person. Boom! Exclamation mark. With the blessing of the speed force, his fist was extremely fast. Acceleration was converted into potential energy. Even the weak Flash Kid could knock an adult man to the ground with one punch. His fist hit the opponent's face, and the flesh on the opponent's cheek was like mud, which was easily broken by the fist, and fell off like dried mud. The bones without skin and flesh, as well as the grey eyeballs, were exposed. The opponent took the punch from the Flash Kid, which also meant that the Flash Kid would bear the same reaction force. Ah! The Flash Kid cried out in pain, and squatted on the ground. He looked at the man whose face flesh was knocked off by his punch, but he was unmoved and walked towards him step by step. The fear in his heart was pulled to the highest point. Can this still be called a human being? Roar, roar. He roared unconsciously and approached the Flash Kid step by step. Kid Flash could hear a clear and rapid heartbeat, which belonged to him. Fear made Kid Flash's legs weak, and he collapsed to the ground, struggling with his hands. He was only 10 years old. No matter how much he liked superheroes, seeing such a terrible scene would deprive him of all his strength. Just before the monster, that could not be called a human, was about to pounce on him, a figure had already pounced on him. Shirley Birkin. After failing to control the zombie, Shirley had to jump on herself. She used the springing power of her legs to hug the zombie's arm, clenched her small hands into fists, and hammered down hard. Boom, boom, boom. 3 consecutive punches, but it didn't work. Instead, the zombie took advantage of its strong physique to grab it from its body like a chicken and smashed it heavily into the dirty water in the sewer. Splash. Splashing water. The zombie's head turned to Kid Flash again. Snow. Shirley. He was really scared and couldn't move his body. Splashing. The water surface was torn apart, and Shirley jumped out again, but this time the person who jumped out was slightly different. She looked a little older. If it wasn't because her clothes shrunk, then she really grew a lot taller. Shirley shook her wet hair on her shoulders and rushed towards the zombie barefoot, faster. As the zombie opened its mouth and roared, she punched into the zombie's mouth. Bang! It punched through its head, although this also left Shirley's arm with a deep tooth mark that could be seen to the bone. Can you still move? Shirley walked in front of Kid Flash. Your hand. Kid Flash stood up, and then he was surprised to find that Shirley was half a head taller than him. About 13 or 14 years old. It's okay, she shook her head. Things have become a little bad. You run fast. Can you help me find someone? Who to find? Kid Flash already had a guess in his mind. Lee, the man who always looks listless. Manager. Although Kid Flash had a guess in his mind, he couldn't help but exclaim when he really heard this. Could it be that this family are all extraordinary superpowers? After saying that, he felt something was wrong. Wouldn't this expose his identity? Shirley didn't say anything else. She stepped over the corpse and walked barefoot deeper into the sewer. Not sure if it was an illusion, Kid Flash found that the other person's height was increasing. He knew that he couldn't help. He could only run fast, so it was more suitable for him to call for help. With the speed force, it took him 12 seconds to get out of the sewer, turned back to Anna's birthday party, and then turned to the toy store. He didn't know the way and had to turn a few more corners to walk the familiar road. Squeak! Exclamation mark. He walked into the store and braked his feet so hard that sparks were almost scratched. Manager, manager. Kid Flash shouted at the lazy man who was still lying on the rocking chair. Shirley is in danger. Save her quickly. In danger? Lizu sat up, glanced at Kid Flash, and stretched leisurely. His attitude made Kid Flash pause. Why was the other party not surprised to see him? Could it be that the other party was really a superpower? At the birthday party, someone stole her backpack, and she chased after him. There were monsters who were not afraid of death. Shirley has grown taller. She asked me to find you. Kid Flash spoke very quickly, and he unconsciously used his speed force while speaking. When he stopped, he found that Lizu looked confused. Kid Flash was anxious. Did you hear it? I didn't hear it clearly. Lizu picked his ears. Wait, I'll go get something. He pulled Lizu and was about to run. Saving people is important now. There are more important things than saving people. Lizu trotted back home, put on a thicker coat, took another one, and then picked up 2 barrels of gasoline before going downstairs and opening the car door. Okay, he started the engine and said to Kid Flash, lead the way. Chapter 305 The Second Dream, Lexanhu 1994 plus 2/2. 2022-1018 Chapter 305 The Second Dream, Lexanhu 1994 plus 22. It will be faster if I take you there. Kid Flash was going to say this, but seeing Lizu struggling to start the car, he thought of another way. Hold on tight. He had come to the back of the car and was pushing the back of the car. The speed force was released in an instant. Whoosh whoosh, the scenery flashed by, and when Lizu came back to his senses, Kid Flash had already opened the car door in a chic manner and made a please gesture. Even if you can't see his face, you know that he must be very proud now. People with speed force are so showy. Lizu thought of the toy Flash in his store. Even if the other party was his toy, he would show off his speed every time he appeared. Follow me. Kid Flash opened the manhole cover first and entered the sewer. In fact, he was also muttering in his heart, what can Lizu really help? He looks like an ordinary person. After entering the sewer, without Kid Flash leading the way, Lizu walked ahead by himself and soon saw a zombie with a pierced back of the head lying on the ground. He sprinkled gasoline and set it on fire. After watching the corpse being burned clean by the flames, he turned around and continued to walk deeper. Kid Flash looked at him in surprise. He didn't expect Lizu to be not worried about Shirley's safety at all, but to make burning the corpse his first task. It's easy to fool a 10-year-old child. Lizu said, there is a virus infection. If the snakes, insects, rats and ants in the sewer are infected, soon all the creatures in Gotham will become like this. What? Kid Flash suddenly felt that the burden on his shoulders was heavier. He also understood what Shirley meant. It turned out that the store manager was responsible for cleaning up the mess. At this moment, Kid Flash suddenly thought of Batman and Robin and believed that Shirley was Batman and the store manager was just a helper. Although the sewers were complicated, with Kid Flash exploring the way ahead, they soon found the second body. However, this time the body was different. Its head was cut off by a sharp claw. Ugh. Kid Flash was already lying on the side and vomiting. Shirley's ability has evolved. Lizu frowned, poured gasoline on the body, and then set it on fire. He watched the body burn to ashes in the fire before turning around and running to the next location. Compared with the T-virus, the G-virus is more evolved. Even without the influence of the new god, Shirley's father, Dr. William Birkin, evolved 3 or 4 forms in one night, and it was becoming more and more unsolvable. New cells, viruses, or environmental changes can cause the G-virus to mutate. Even though Shirley has been injected with vaccine serum, she still has the G-virus in her body. This is a fact. After leaving piles of burning flames along the way, they finally heard the sound of fighting. Stay here and don't move. Lizu stopped the eager Flash boy. It was still unknown whether Shirley could still retain her sanity after the evolution. Maybe he would see Shirley catching up with his father after turning a corner. She had become a ball of meat and had evolved to a big mouth. Ho the burly licker, like a lion, was lying on the ground. If it stood up, it would be much taller than the tyrant. The 45 centimeter long claws, which evolved from nails, cut the ground under its feet like cutting tofu, leaving smooth scratches. But it was wary of staring at Shirley opposite. Shirley was already more than 1.7 meters tall, with light golden hair hanging down to her waist. The clothes on her body could barely cover her chest and hips. But the evolution was far more than that. Her right hand was also like the licker. The nails and fingers of her right hand evolved into 20 centimeter long sharp claws. The edges of the 5 razor sharp claws were entangled with flesh like spider silk, which was very bloody. Puff, the licker rushed out first, turning into red lightning, until it reached Shirley's shoulder. Shirley was caught unawares, and was hit directly. She quickly swung her right claws, and cut off her tongue. At the same time, she tapped the ground with her toes and shot towards the licker. Ding dong. The slender claws collided with the thick and huge claws, almost causing sparks. Shirley was weaker, and was knocked to the ground. The licker took advantage of the advantage, and accelerated its speed to counterattack. Its claws went straight to Shirley's head, intending to kill her. Clang. The pair of thick and huge claws were actually blocked. Shirley raised her left hand, which had also evolved into claws. She crossed her claws in front of her to avoid having several bloody holes poked in her face. The licker, who was as burly as a lion, was even stronger. Although its tongue was broken, its teeth were still sharp. It lowered its head and bit again. Shirley was unable to dodge, and was bitten on the shoulder, tearing off a piece of flesh. But as soon as the flesh on her shoulder was torn off, her body began to recover, and her muscle tissue was rewoven. In the blink of an eye, she was almost fully recovered. After an unknown degree of evolution, Shirley's most significant recovery ability was obviously greatly improved. The licker may have felt strange, and it lowered its head to take another bite, but with a ding, its teeth were cracked. Shirley's newly grown shoulder had evolved a layer of white keratin, like a rhino horn shoulder armor. Evolution has never stopped. The licker began to shake its body violently, and it suddenly jumped up, intending to completely crush Shirley with the weight of its body, when it fell down. At the moment, when the licker jumped up, Shirley did not choose to dodge, but raised her claws. Puff! Exclamation mark. Shirley's claws pierced the licker's head, but the opponent's huge claws also pierced her chest. Bending her knees to push the licker away from her body, Shirley sat up, and her chest injury was recovering rapidly. There were footsteps in the distance. Seeing that the person coming was Lizu, Shirley fainted with relief. Lizu quickly ran to Shirley's side. Looking at this mature woman, he couldn't believe that this was the 10-year-old girl. After wrapping her up with the clothes he had prepared long ago, Lizu turned his gaze to the licker, who fell to the side. Can this thing barely be called a licker? Its size was already beyond the level of a tyrant, and it was believed that it was a male lion. Could it be that it was affected by the genes of this world and evolved? There was a reason for this. The genes of humans in different worlds might not be exactly the same. The new genes taken in might be the key to the evolution of the licker to such a degree. Moreover, Lizu clearly realized that he could no longer turn the licker into a toy. In other words, after the licker who had been toyed by him evolved into a new species, the crazy metabolism of the body had replaced the part he had controlled, and grew a new one. This was also the key to removing Lizu's toy. As long as the recovery power was sufficient, the toyed position could be quickly dug out, and a new one would grow, and then the new position would have nothing to do with Lizu. But obviously no one can do this. Even if the evolution is complete, can the brain also be replaced with a new one? Shirley's physical abnormality is very likely caused by the body absorbing the genes of the evolved zombies and lickers. This little girl who he only used as a commander seems to be getting more and more incredible now. How is Shirley? Kid Flash, who had already vomited, ran over and asked. She. Lizu suddenly felt his arms lighten and looked down, only to find that Shirley had turned back to her 10-year-old appearance. Looking at Shirley's red face, Lizu was not sure whether her condition was good or bad. She has a fever. Then, Kid Flash wanted to say something. Roar interrupted him. Step by step, the slow footsteps came from a distance. Anything else? Kid Flash's voice changed drastically. Tonight is definitely the Waterloo of his superhero career. That ghost has exhausted his remaining courage. Old teacher? Looking at the figure staggering out, Kid Flash was really surprised. Lizu also recognized the big-nosed female teacher. After she turned into a zombie, her body was still intact, except for her nose, which was bitten off. Without the big nose, she looked very strange. Lizu reached for his waist, raised his hand, and without aiming, he shot the other person in the head. "What are you doing?" The Flash Kid shuddered in fear. Fear made him subconsciously ignore that the store manager was 50 meters away from the teacher. How could he shoot a person in the head in the dim sewer? "I have a gun license, so this is also considered self-defense." Lizu took out the license from his pocket and shook it. "Hurry up and look for more infected people." The Flash Kid nodded. After Lizu poured gasoline on the bodies of the licker and the female teacher and set them on fire, the Flash Kid came back. He was panting and looked very tired. "No, I've looked everywhere. By the way, I also found this." He brought Shirley's backpack to Lizu. "Is this what they want?" Lizu glanced at the toys in his backpack, then at the burning corpse on the ground, and roughly guessed why the lickers were out of control and almost caused a zombie disaster. The big-nosed female teacher was obviously not unrelated. "Okay, go home and sleep. Today's matter is over." Lizu turned around and walked out with Shirley in his arms. Flash Boy hesitated. "Wait, we don't call the police." "What do you mean by calling the police?" "A group of people suddenly turned into zombies and want to eat people. But we solved them." Flash Boy was a little hesitant when he said this. Although he was a participant, it was limited to participation. In fact, from beginning to end, except for throwing a punch and being knocked down by the reaction force, he did not contribute much. Superheroes are all unknown. Lizu left only the sentence and left with Shirley in his arms. Although he is not a superhero, he is the opponent of superheroes. If people who understand you are always opponents, then it is not difficult for him to guess what those superheroes are thinking. "That's right, we saved this city in obscurity." Kid Flash clenched his fist and waved it in the air. The confidence that was originally lost due to fear not only rose back at this time, but also increased a lot. However, Kid Flash glanced at the body burning to slag behind him and shuddered. Wait for me." Lizu sat in front of the window, looking at Shirley with a red face. Question 40 degrees plus, you can fry eggs. It is obvious that Shirley's body metabolism has reached an extremely high level. She is still in a coma. No dream. Lizu tried to enter Shirley's dream, but there was nothing there. Shirley's consciousness may also be suppressed. The G-virus may break out, but there is no serum vaccine now. This is the problem. When leaving the Resident Evil world, Lizu did not take any information about the G-virus or serum. It was not because he was not greedy enough, but because the nuclear bomb from the Marvel world was too powerful and destroyed the hive completely. Other branches of the Umbrella Corporation may have serum vaccines. Traveling long distances is obviously not in line with Lizu's lazy character. Now he finally experienced the price of laziness. Make one yourself. He took the plasticine, which was one of the best materials he had used to make toys so far. He rolled the plasticine into a cylinder in his hand and activated the toyization. He wanted to make the serum of the G-virus. A few seconds later, the serum appeared. Will it turn into plasticine after injection? If he could return to the world of Resident Evil again, perhaps all problems could be solved. But Lizu looked at the countdown of the time and space gate with 2 or 3 years left, knowing that this was not realistic. But it was not difficult. As long as Shirley was toyized and placed in the prop box, the influence and evolution brought by the G-virus would stay. The idea just came up. Lizu's eyes suddenly changed. He was standing on the crowded streets of Raccoon City. At that moment, the pedestrians in the entire Raccoon City paused, and they all looked up at Lizu. All zombies. What is this? Back. Lizu didn't expect that he would suddenly return to the world of Resident Evil, but facing the zombies, he didn't think it was a big problem, so he took a step forward. Toyization. The Green Giant's body is almost invincible in this world. Whether it is a licker or a tyrant, it is impossible to tear the skin of the abomination whose fighting power is obviously not on the same level. However, Lizu took a step forward, but his body was still standing. The swarm of zombies overwhelmed him in an instant. Li Zu opened his eyes suddenly, feeling his heart beating wildly, and he couldn't help but smile. The crazy feeling came back again. What was that just now? A dream? Li Zu closed his eyes instantly and returned to the dream he had created. The sky was grey, and a stone path went up the hillside. The path was full of green plants on both sides, but it did not bring a trace of vitality, but was dead. On the top of the hillside was a small wooden house. He rarely came back to this place, especially after Hawkgirl regained her consciousness and Alice obtained the heir's helmet. Hawkgirl was still controllable, but as long as Alice got a chance to leave the dream, Li Zu couldn't do anything to her. You're finally here. Hawkgirl landed in front of Li Zu with a hammer. When will you let me out? Li Zu looked at Hawkgirl. After taking off her mask, this absolute feminist who believed in Queen Diana looked pretty good. Didn't we agree that you would keep an eye on her and I would let you go when I find a way to deal with her? Li Zu looked at the wooden house where Alice was imprisoned. You could also call her Alicia or the new god. The only thing that was certain was that Alice's memory accounted for a very small part of it, almost nothing. Hawkgirl might have known that she had to be a prisoner at ease, so she flapped her wings and flew to the roof like a Hawkgirl in a birdcage, squatting on it at ease. This is indeed a dream, so what about the place I went in before? He suddenly remembered that he seemed to be in the world of Resident Evil and had obtained 100% world exploration. Could it be that it was a different dream? Chapter 306 Death is a Beginning. Dreams, when first obtained, can trap enemies, especially after obtaining the nightmare fungus crab. It once became a relatively useful card for Li Zu. Abominations were trapped in the dream world more than once, but when Li Zu deepened his research on toyization and encountered stronger and stronger opponents, the strongest had reached the Superman level, and dreams were obviously not enough. Dreams have become a small prison in his hands, with no extra functions, except to imprison some disobedient toys. But this time, he found that after the exploration of the Resident Evil world reached 100%, it might directly become the second dream and appear in his brain. If he obtained 100% exploration of a world in advance before he obtained the dream ability, what would be the meaning of this reward for him? He could not enter the dream freely to dream, and even if he was given a complete dream world, it would not be as helpful as the bat lamp he got at 90%. Of course, this problem is no longer within Li Zu's consideration. He always believes that the things in his head have a certain scale, although he does not think that thing will be alive. If he were alive, seeing how passive he was, not only did he not explore the world, but he found a small corner to stay, he would have used some special coercive means to force Li Zu to move. In fact, Li Zu was always free to move, always doing whatever he wanted, except because the madness in his brain was too much, affecting his judgment, and there were many such cases. Li Zu opened his eyes. Shirley's face was red, and the temperature rose a lot. It would take only a few seconds after the thermometer was clamped on, and the mercury would break through the thermometer. He gently patted Shirley's forehead, and the sleepy freckled girl gradually shrank, and finally turned into a toy, lying on the pillow. Li Zu closed his eyes again. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself in Raccoon City again. A living person suddenly appeared in front of the zombies, just like a freshly baked snack in the oven, and waiting outside was a group of hungry circus clowns. This metaphor was not quite appropriate, but Li Zu still couldn't help but describe the zombies that pounced on him in his heart. In an instant, Li Zu was pounced on by the zombies, and the pain of biting all over his body attacked his nerves. Li Zu opened his eyes suddenly. That was indeed a dream he could enter at will, but compared to being able to change the first dream freely according to his thoughts, he was just a passerby in the second dream, and could not change anything. Not only that, his toy transformation, gunfighting, influencer aura, laugher aura, acrobatics, prop box, beast transformation and other abilities were all unusable. He had no choice in the dream. This was definitely a nightmare. What's the point of exploring the world 100%? Perfecting the dream? Having said that, Li Zu still closed his eyes and entered the dream. It was that street again, and the wandering zombies raised their heads the moment Li Zu appeared. It's time to run. Li Zu immediately turned around and ran with his legs spread out. His arms were even wider, and the way he ran was very funny. but this is not without benefits. After waving his arms, it is easier for him to find a sense of balance. The sense of balance is pure nonsense. He just lost the acrobatic ability of the Flying Grayson family, and his body returned to the state of the toy man who followed the clown lady in the Flashpoint world. As long as there is one ability left in him, Lizu will appear calm in the face of the zombies behind him, but now he can only run in a panic. In order to escape from the mouths of the corpses, he has died 16 times. Before this, Lizu only died twice relying on the resurrection ability, and now he can be said to have had enough. The 17th time, the moment he entered the second dream, Lizu did not choose to run away directly this time. He had already found that he could not escape at all. However, at least there is always a way out. After 16 deaths, he has begun to pay attention to the scene. This is a traffic accident that caused a major traffic jam. The police mediated, but they did not expect a biochemical crisis to break out, so everyone on the road was infected. Now should be the late stage of the Raccoon City virus infection. Lizu is not even sure when the nuclear bomb will fall from his head. The good news is that the police who turned into zombies are closest to him, and the other party has a gun. The chance of breaking through may be with a gun. The bad news is that he has to find a way to get a gun, and he can't die. If he can't escape from here, he will fall into an endless nightmare. I actually had a nightmare in my own dream. 2 or 3 seconds after he appeared, the zombies had already discovered him. The zombie police rushed towards Lizu first. Although this group of guys were not fast, Lizu was just an ordinary person. There was only a straight road behind him to escape. He had to stop and rest after running for 600 or 700 meters. The zombies had already knocked him down while he was catching his breath. The zombies were not always so slow. There were a few special ones among them, and they were very fast. So they were the reason why Lizu could not escape from here. Lizu grinned, and his smile was quite crazy. His next behavior could naturally be called crazy. A big living person rushed towards the zombies. Just like a drop of oil dripping into a boiling water pot, it disappeared in an instant. The zombies gathered in an instant and surrounded Lizu. If nothing unexpected happened, Lizu would be eaten alive by the zombies this time, just like the previous times. The zombie police bit him, and Lizu consciously raised his left arm to block it. The not so sharp teeth bit his arm, tearing off a piece of meat, revealing the white bones. Lizu smiled even more strongly. He hadn't experienced this feeling for a long time. The more scared he was, the more he couldn't control the corners of his mouth from rising. He hugged the zombie policeman with his right hand and pulled out the pistol on his body. At this time, 2 zombies had already pounced on him from behind, one on the left and one on the right, trying to get on his shoulders. I don't want to start over again. Lizu retreated half a step, and his elbow suddenly hit the upper side, coincidentally hitting the zombie's chin. Although this helped the zombie biting his shoulder in disguise, it bit off a large piece of meat. Bang! Although Lizu's marksmanship was no longer good, the muzzle of the gun was close to the zombie policeman's head, and there was no possibility of missing. He shot through the zombie biting his left shoulder with another shot. 17 or 18 hands had already touched Lizu's body, forming a wall, blocking all his retreat routes. As expected, Lizu was swallowed up by the zombies again. Forget it, next time will be the last time to start over. Entered the second dream for the 18th time. Without hesitation, while the zombie was still thinking about life, Lizu had already rushed towards the zombie police with a grin on his face. With sufficient physical strength, he kicked the zombie police over and pulled out the opponent's pistol. However, when he bent down to draw his gun, a zombie had already rushed over. Lizu's movements were not agile, so he chose to stretch out his left hand and put it to the zombie's mouth. With a click, half of his palm was bitten off like a skewer. The pain made Lizu smile even more. Gun in hand. Turn around and run away. Whoosh, a very fast zombie rushed out of the zombie group, and its speed was almost the same as Lizu's, which means that the speed of this group of zombies is about the same as that of a weak adult. Lizu turned back and fired a shot. Bang! The bullet hit the zombie's left ear. For a zombie with no sense of pain and no consciousness, let alone the ear, it would not feel anything, even if you dug out its eyeballs and tongue. Before, I could shoot an ant within 50 steps with my eyes closed. Li Zu sighed, raised his right hand holding the gun, and finally blew up the head of the zombie that was chasing him at a distance of 30 centimeters. There were only 5 bullets in the gun, but there were 8 fast zombies chasing him. Along the way, he relied on various mature tricks and the information asymmetry between the enemy and himself to win most of the time. There were few head-on confrontations without backup. After the last 3 bullets blew up the heads of the 3 zombies that were almost attached to him, Li Zu finally met his savior, a car parked across the middle of the road. In the past, he had no chance to run here and would be caught up by the zombies and turned into a snack. There were 4 allies behind the car, and he finally escaped. Climbing over the car, with the car slightly blocking him, Li Zu fled into the alley closest to him. He suddenly stopped. In the alley where only 3 people could walk side by side, 4 or 5 zombies staggered towards Li Zu. The zombies behind him had also caught up with him. The zombies' rotten trachea made a sound, which sounded like a mockery. This road doesn't seem to work. Li Zu shook his head. Forget it, I will definitely escape next time. The zombies rushed forward. For the 19th time, Li Zu was quite familiar with it. He grabbed the gun and shot to stop the fast zombies chasing him and pass the car. This time, facing 4 alleys, Li Zu chose the 3rd one, which looked much wider. Rushing into the alley, there were indeed zombies, but the number of zombies was not large, so he was not left here. With his physical strength depleted, he leaned against the wall to rest and continued to run after resting. In this way, Li Zu finally found the landmark building of Raccoon City, the police station. The hive is still far from here. Li Zu looked at his broken arm. Even if it was a dream, the pain was not reduced at all. In the dream, he might not be infected by the virus, so the role of the serum was crucial. The road ahead seemed very smooth. After passing the police station, Li Zu found a motorcycle parked on the side of the road with a double-barreled shotgun stuck on it. Bang, something fell over, and a zombie wearing a leather jacket with a mohawk on the side of the road climbed up and walked towards Li Zu. So it's your gun and car. Li Zu raised the shotgun in his right hand and pointed it at the zombie. Bang! Exclamation mark. The zombie's head exploded immediately, and Li Zu's head was covered with cold sweat. The recoil almost broke his arm muscles. He glanced at the shotgun twice, then looked at his small body. Between throwing the gun or not, he finally chose to put the shotgun back on the motorcycle. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The chimney spewed out bursts of choking smoke, and he made quite a noise, which soon attracted a group of zombies. But now that he had a steel vehicle, the zombies could only follow him and eat dust. His primary goal was determined: to go to the hive. Thank you 6 Strings Leader Yukon for the 500 starting coins reward. Chapter 307 Who would write a diary? The road from downtown Raccoon City to the villa in the suburbs is a long winding mountain road, which means that there are not many people along the road, except for a few people who occasionally become zombies and stay on the winding mountain road. The scattered zombies could not stop Li Zu, who flew at a low altitude like lightning. Li Zu drove with one hand, enjoying the speed, while thinking in his heart, why does a second dream exist? 100% exploration is obviously not only to enrich his dreams, but also, will there be Alice here? Before Raccoon City was destroyed by a nuclear bomb, Alice would have been in this city. Undoubtedly, Alice is a good partner. The villa soon appeared in front of him, with quiet air, carefully cultivated greenery, and ghost curtains that could be seen from a long distance, without wind and automatically behind the window. He stopped the car, looked around, and had to clamp the only double-barreled shotgun with bullets under his left arm, and pushed open the door of the villa. Squeak. Judging from the sound, the door hinge should be rusty, and the sound sounded creepy. Li Zu walked through the long corridor of the Western-style house, and came to Alice's bedroom. On the bed was a red short skirt, which was once the symbol of Alice. The bloodthirsty blonde beauty in the red skirt. Li Zu only glanced at it, and turned to the desk. On the table was a wedding ring. To Alice was engraved inside. Pulling open the first drawer of the cabinet, and looking at the things inside, Li Zu immediately decided to throw away the double-barreled shotgun that he couldn't use. In the drawer lay a small caliber pistol and a box of bullets. It was sensible to use the pistol with one hand. Li Zu loaded the pistol bullets with one hand, and pulled the bolt with his teeth. Snap, the gun was inserted into the belt. Alice's diary. There was a diary under the gun, and the name was written on the cover. Lizu glanced at his still deteriorating left arm, took Alice's diary, and sat leisurely on the chair, opening the first page. It was just a nightmare, so he wouldn't be nervous now. Even if he was going to die, he would still have the leisure to flip through Alice's little secrets. I woke up in the bathroom. I can't remember anything, including my own name. This should be my home. I'm wearing a ring. Maybe I'm married. I don't even remember what year, month, and day it is today. The sky is dark, and soon a group of people rushed in. They are well equipped, and say I'm the security director of Umbrella Corporation. We entered the hive together. The artificial intelligence in the hive has rebelled. She killed hundreds of employees in the hive. We successfully entered the hive. Damn, didn't they say they were dead? What is this? The diary stopped abruptly. Lizu frowned and looked at the diary. It was not that the things written by Alice evoked some plots in his memory, but it's the end of the world, and this sister is still writing a diary? In the days when walking on the street may be bitten off by a zombie, she is still writing a diary here peacefully? Who writes a diary? Without reading the second half of the diary, Lizu can be sure that Alice has definitely encountered a zombie, or a licker. Since you have already written a diary, it means you have escaped. Why don't you finish it? However, this is a dream, and he can't reason with dreams. There are many uncontrollable situations in dreams, so writing a diary is not a big deal. Lizu shook his head, walked out of Alice's bedroom, and went straight to the hive. Since he couldn't die and came again, he must enter the hive. At the entrance of the hive, the train stopped steadily on the platform. Lizu walked on the train, and quickly found the T-virus serum hidden on the train. He injected himself with a shot, and the arm mutation was quickly suppressed. Lizu started the train, holding a shotgun in his left arm and a pistol in his right hand, leaning against the iron carriage. This dream, could it be that the entire biochemical crisis world is stuffed in? The construction of dreams is not difficult, but if you take into account the influence of the outside world and the problem of waking up, you must have a stable space. Lizu's first dream is based on the space of the prop box. Although it looks big, there are air walls everywhere. The second dream is different. It seems that every place can be walked, and every place can be carefully investigated. It is completely beyond the level that his brain can weave dreams. Writing down the origins of every item, from pebbles to mountains. Even if Lizu could have such a dream, it would take countless centuries. Bang. Kai. The train arrived. It's time to go out. Maybe that bald guy Arthur has a way to control the G-virus in Shirley's body? Lizu stood up. He decided to stop dreaming for the time being. Although he didn't want Lex Luthor, the bald guy, to get the relevant knowledge of the world of Resident Evil. This is Pandora's box. Anyone who opens it without authorization will eventually cause a disaster that destroys the world. When he woke up, Lizu felt his hands were heavy. He lowered his head and saw that he was holding a shotgun in his left hand and a pistol in his right hand. He brought back the things in his dream. So was it really a dream he entered? Then he looked at Shirley's toys on the bed. There should be G-virus serum in the dream, so I don't have to go find that bald guy. Lizu simply lay on the bed, stretched and closed his eyes. When he woke up again, he was leaning against the iron carriage of the train, with the guns in his hands still there. If you don't die, you don't have to start over. This is good. Can you bring something in? If he can bring weapons in, or bring other creatures into the second dream, Lizu is confident that he can sweep across this world at the fastest speed. After he went back and forth twice, he found that this was impossible. Only things that originally belonged to the dream would come back with him. His left hand was still in a state of severe injury from being bitten. It seemed that, if he didn't die again, it would remain like this, unless he could meet a doctor. The door of the hive opened, and Lizu ran straight to the Red Queen's room with a pistol. If he wanted to enter the real underground hive, he could only rely on Red Queen. Bang. Lizu's consciousness suddenly went black, and he didn't even see what attacked him. Waking up again, Lizu looked at his empty hands. Close your eyes, and enter the dream for the 20th time. Sure enough, the familiar group of zombies was in the distance. So kind. Grab the gun. kill the fast zombies that are chasing him, walk into the third alley, ride on the motorcycle on the side of the road, and, not trying to use the shotgun with one hand. When Lizu came to the hive again, he did not rush in recklessly this time. This time, at least I have to know who it is. There is no doubt that when Lizu stepped into the hive, the attack came again, and his consciousness fell into darkness. The pain is on the top of the head. That thing is hiding above the head. The 23rd time back to the hive. The reason why it is called the 23rd time, there are two problems in this process. The bullet missed the target and failed to kill the fast zombies that were chasing him at the beginning, and the mohawk-headed zombie bit his neck carelessly. Lizu grabbed the double-barreled shotgun in his right hand, and the moment he approached the hive door, he rolled forward and rushed in, and he kept the muzzle of the gun high. Blind shooting. Bang. Hit. Something fell from the top of the head. It's a licker. After the darkness turned to light, Lizu still had no ability to get rid of the licker. This natural predator was extremely fast, and one claw made Lizu's consciousness fall into darkness again. If you have too many nightmares, your mood will also become worse. Lizu sat up from the bed, yawned and walked to the living room. Dreams are different from reality. It's like being sleepy at school. I had a long enough dream in my mind. When I woke up, I found that only a few seconds had passed. He fought to the death in his dream, but it was still dark in reality. There was no TV signal, and there was no entertainment. Lizu yawned and drank a can of drink, then returned to Shirley's room, lay on the bed, and entered the dream. In the first dream, there was a small cabin. Alice, the goddess of war, wearing a helmet, sat on a small stool. She noticed Lizu approaching and raised her head. The eyes covered by Air's helmet were very cold. Lizu ignored the other party's unfriendly look, leaned against the door and asked kindly, "How do you feel?" She said, "You can't keep me for too long." I know. Lizu nodded and asked, "Do you have the habit of writing a diary?" What? She was a little confused by Lizu's way of chatting with one foot in the sky and one foot in the ground. "Alice, do you have the habit of writing a diary?" "She doesn't write that thing," the female warrior replied. "Yeah, I think so too." Lizu nodded. "See you when you are free." He waved his hand and disappeared. In the wooden house, only the female warrior Alice was left, and the eagle girl on the roof was motionless from beginning to end. She seemed to be in a dream, dreaming. The second dream, Lizu went through a lot of hardships and kicked the motorcycle open again, pushing open the door of the villa. This was the 102nd time. He could already rely on hundreds of deaths to accurately locate the positions of most of the lickers in the hive, and with the help of infinite repetitions as a basis, he kept reloading the files and killed the lickers one by one. But this time he was sure that he would never be able to enter the hive. The zombies blocked the road, which meant that if he wanted to enter the Red Queen's engine room, he had to kill hundreds of zombies, and during this time he had to guard against the lickers that might appear at any time. It would be a simpler method to search the police station for weapons, or simply escape from Raccoon City and look for G-Virus serum elsewhere. This is my dream as the ruler of dreams. Lizu did not intend to retreat. If he wanted to retreat, why would he hold on until he died 102 times? And he felt that there seemed to be something at the bottom of the hive, and he might miss it if he didn't go. Lizu came to the train again. This time he did not start the train, but chose to inject the T-virus directly. That's right, if you want to achieve a qualitative change in this dream, then using the virus to evolve yourself is a good way. Even if you fail, you will only die. He has died more than 100 times. A few minutes later, Lizu felt his body getting hot. 10 minutes later, Lizu roared and lost consciousness. When he opened his eyes again, he was back to the beginning. The zombies were wandering in the distance. Maybe it was the injury that caused the failure of the T-virus fusion. But the T-virus fusion obviously still values genes. He shook his head again. What rationality is there in a dream? He is not Alice. If he is outside the second dream, Lizu can turn himself into Alice and have all the power of Alice. He can even become an abomination, but it doesn't help much in the dream. After dying several times, Lizu came to the cabin in his dream. He looked at the confused female warrior and asked, "Is there any trick to fuse the T-virus?" "You want to fuse the T-virus?" She seemed to have heard a joke. If your blood cells are fused with the T-virus, they might release something very interesting. Lizu knew what she meant. After the beast transformation, he knew what he looked like. His body couldn't stand the stimulation. I'll take this as your compliment to my strength. Lizu didn't react excessively. If you want to hear it, of course I can tell you, she said. I can even tell you what kind of auxiliary medicine can perfectly fuse the T-virus. Chapter 308, The Runner in the Gap. In the early morning, the sky was still gray. In the central city of Missouri, a red shadow with yellow lightning flashed, running on multiple avenues at a speed beyond the human brain's reaction. Captain Cold is wreaking havoc on public facilities near the Star Lab. The running figure paused, and in less than a second, he appeared in front of the abandoned Star Lab. The freezing ray quickly swept across the ground, and thousands of square meters of ground froze in an instant, and there was no ice debris, as smooth as a lake. It can be seen that the user has worked hard. The running figure slipped and fell head over heels. A foot had already stepped on his chest. Captain Cold took off his sunglasses and said, I hope my little trick didn't hurt you, old man. Even though he was stepped on, he didn't look very nervous. He looked up at the figure, wrapped in the coat, and said, you know, I will knock you down again. With your osteoporotic fist. Captain Cold seemed to have heard a joke. Ha ha ha. Or do you want to lie on the ground and wait for me to help you up so that you can take the opportunity to hit me on the head? I'm not that respectful of the elderly and the young. Flash, the era of superheroes is over. Now I have the final say in this city. Under the hood, the Flash's eyes were cloudy. He was indeed too old. But I'm not too old to move. The Flash's right hand shook quickly, his wrist drew a circle, and the small tornado that was raised by the high-speed rotation blew away Captain Cold, who was stepping on his chest. Look, it's more than enough to deal with you. Captain Cold's back hit the ice heavily. He was not the Flash, and he was a little overwhelmed even with his coat. He grinned. You know, since I became Captain Cold, killing you has been my goal. Of course I know. The Flash climbed up. He bent down, lowered his center of gravity. As long as he slowed down a little, he could beat the opponent even on the ice. Captain Cold continued, then you should know that I will not come alone to deal with you. A hand suddenly stretched out from the ice and grabbed the Flash. The Flash, who was always keeping his spirits tense, found the sneak attacking hand in an instant, and he quickly jumped back to dodge. Mirror Master. The Flash pressed the ground with his right hand to stabilize his shaking body. Today is your death, Flash. The man holding his shoulders half emerged from the ice, his calm tone, as if he was announcing the result. Another voice came from behind. Next year on this day, I will put a bouquet of flowers in front of your tombstone, if I can still remember it by then. At the same time, there was a suffocating heat. Flash rushed forward and dodged awkwardly. His battle suit had a good heat insulation effect, but the burning pain still did not spare his back, and the old body of Flash could not help but scream. Heat wave. Flash looked at the man wearing a fireproof suit and holding a flamethrower. This was a premeditated action. The three people of the rogue gang were targeting him. Captain Cold was watching from a distance. The ice surface under his feet, which was as reflective as a mirror, became the territory of the Mirror Master. Heatwave was also constantly adjusting his flamethrower. At this time, Flash suddenly felt a little powerless. If he could still run as fast as before, forget it. This is unrealistic. Go. Captain Cold shouted. The cold beam was already attacking Flash. He quickly retreated, but the ice surface under his feet kept reaching out to grab him, constantly hindering him. Boom. The heat wave hit, and the ice on the ground melted instantly, allowing Flash to finally run on the ground. However, Flash was also hit by the air wave generated by the flame, and his body became shaky. Heatwave. Captain Cold shouted angrily, watch your hands. Look at what you are doing. Stop spraying your snowball machine. Look, I could have burned him to death directly, just because your ice absorbed the heat energy. Heatwave was not to be outdone, and he stiffened his neck and yelled at Captain Cold. He is mine today. Only I can kill him. Captain Cold turned the freezing gun in his hand from pointing at the Flash to Heatwave. It's mine. Heatwave also turned the flamethrower. Both of them shot at their companions without hesitation. The collision of flames and frost was enough to devour the water vapor within half a meter of vision, and it spread out in an instant and enveloped them. The Flash escaped while they were fighting. In Central City, he was old, but the bad guys didn't have much impact. And compared to the whole world, Central City, which was protected by the Flash, was lucky. For example, Metropolis had disappeared and evaporated. Coast City, without the Green Lantern, had already become a crime city that was far crazier than Gotham. The Flash looked at the center of the thick fog and disappeared in a flash. When he reappeared, he had a large fishing net in his hand. Be quiet for a while. The Flash ran quickly with the fishing net. The tornado blew away the water vapor. Captain Cold and Heatwave, who found that the surrounding environment had changed, stopped to confront each other, but what was waiting for them was a large net covering them. Captain Cold and Heatwave, who disliked each other, were caught by the net and tied together tightly. I hope you can adapt quickly when you return to prison. After handing the two to the police, the Flash rushed out of Central City without stopping. Although the Mirror Master disappeared without a trace, he had more important things to do now. There was a fast runner with super speed in Gotham. It was said that he was only about 10 years old. The Flash originally planned to solve all the troubles in Central City after a while, before going to Gotham, but now he found that the troubles could never be solved, but he could not keep running. In a few minutes, the Flash appeared on the roof of the Gotham Police Department. A silent lightning. His arrival did not disturb anyone. In fact, he could be even faster, but considering that his body might not be able to handle it, he had to take care of his aging body. The Gotham Police Department once displayed a bat lantern, which was the symbol of the city. If Gotham lights up the bat lantern again now, it will no longer bring hope, but fear that will make the whole world despair. Downstairs, a flash of lightning flashed by at a very fast speed, and passers-by only thought it was a gust of wind. The corners of the Flash's mouth curled up. Good speed. It can be seen that he was very satisfied. The Flash caught up with the other party. He could easily keep up with him at a jogging speed, and would never be discovered by the other party. Although the boy was carrying a school bag, he did not go to school, but stood in front of a toy store. Toy store. The Flash suddenly felt bad. Although most of the super criminals in this city were killed because of the laughing bat, a real troublesome guy was still lurking here. Moreover, as a precaution, he also got relevant information about the store of the Toyman from Lex Luthor. The Toyman is one of the important people who truly changed the direction of the world and prevented this planet from falling into despair. To be honest, Toyman is somewhat similar to the rogue gang in Central City. It is not their goal to rule the world or carry out terrorist attacks, but they do things without regard for the law, and they do not even care about killing their enemies. They are definitely criminals. A young speedster is connected to Toyman. This is bad news that cannot be worse. The Flash has always known that Toyman wants the Speed Force very much, or in other words, he wants all the power in the world. At the door of the toy store, Wally West looked at the closed door. Manager, Shirley, I'm here. Last night, are you all okay? Is there anyone? No one answered. Thinking of what happened last night, Wally took a deep breath. He had to rush in to see how Shirley was. She looked very bad last night. Flash rushed upstairs along the wall. Wally stopped outside the window and looked in. It doesn't matter if you don't look. When he saw it, Wally was stunned outside the window. The manager, who was usually not very energetic, was actually sleeping on the bed with a doll. Chapter 309, The Manager's Secret. A wretched old man? Or, is there a little princess living in his mind? Wally's heart trembled. He felt that he had discovered a secret that might threaten his life. Lizu on the bed had opened his eyes and opened the window, staring at the Flash boy with a pair of listless eyes. Go through the main door next time. Lizu glanced at the ceiling above his head and said, otherwise you will die. Will die. Wally's neck shrank. He made up his mind not to mention the manager's strange habit. This is definitely a big secret that can kill him. He looked inside and didn't see the figure, so he asked, Shirley, how is she? Rest. Is she okay? Nothing. Lizu glanced at the Flash boy and looked out the window again. The figure on the roof of the opposite building didn't think of hiding. The Flash. I wonder what this old man and the little one are doing. Lizu is now immersed in the second dream. Everything is ready. If he hadn't sensed someone approaching, he would probably still be exploring in his dream. But Lizu also found that the Flash boy didn't know that there was a Flash following him in the distance. Close the window when you leave. By the way, remember to ask for leave for Shirley. Lizu had already waved his hand to send him away. Although Wally was unwilling, he still nodded. I'll come after school. Come after school. She will probably wake up. Hearing this, Kid Flash breathed a sigh of relief and disappeared with a flash of lightning. Another faster lightning flashed by, and Flash jumped into the window. Is your store here? Flash felt that he had to say something and say hello. But it was Lizu's huge green fist that answered Flash. Crackling, the Speed Force pulled the arc, ensuring that the thick fist was infinitely slowed down in his eyes. Flash dodged to the left. Bang! The airwave from the fist instantly squeezed the window, and the glass shattered and scattered all over the sky. The airwave hit Flash, and he was accidentally knocked over and rolled on the ground. But because of the fast speed, Lizu didn't even notice from falling to standing up. What are you doing? Flash didn't expect that he would almost be hit by a fatal punch when he visited. Lizu explained, I just said that next time you don't come in through the main door, you'll die. Didn't you say that to that kid? The Flash lowered his waist and kept a posture ready to run away at any time. He didn't know what Lizu was capable of, but from the abilities he had already demonstrated, being fast doesn't necessarily mean he can run. Everyone he didn't like these familiar superheroes. I apologize. The Flash jumped out of the window, raising his hands high. I just followed that kid, so I wanted to come in and talk to you. Then talk to his parents. I'm not familiar with him. Lizu's thick arms gradually became thinner, and the Flash breathed a sigh of relief. He opened his mouth and wanted to speak, but seeing Lizu's impatient look, he closed his mouth and ran at full speed, not daring to say hello to leave. His decision was absolutely correct. Lizu was really too lazy to communicate with the Flash. If he continued to chat, maybe the headline of the news that day would be that the Flash went to Gotham City, fought a battle with the Toyman, and died in Gotham. There would never be a second news. No one disturbed him. Lizu lay back on the bed and closed his eyes. The second dream. Hive. After hundreds of deaths, Lizu finally found a relatively safe way to enter the Red Queen mainframe room. At the door of the Red Queen mainframe room, in front of the laser channel, 3 corpses. One corpse had a rifle and 2 full magazines. The rotten face could no longer be seen, but from its towering chest, it should be a woman. Ignoring the rotten face, the corpse opened its mouth wide and moved its head slightly to see a huge bullet hole through the back of its head. Suicide. The other 2 corpses were male, and the male on the left had no weapons. The 2 corpses had distorted deaths, and unlike the woman who committed suicide, they must have been tortured. Lizu fumbled the female corpse for a while. Sure enough, he found a diary on the female corpse. Rain's diary, another diary. Lizu could no longer read the diary easily at this time. The diary seemed to record some important information that could not be ignored. Our team received a mission to go to the underground hive in the Raccoon City Villa to recover the out-of-control artificial intelligence Red Queen. She killed all the employees in the hive and emitted a large amount of poison gas. Fortunately, we found 2 Umbrella security personnel who fell in the poison gas, which means that Red Queen did not have time to kill everyone. We have the latest equipment of Umbrella Corporation. Although this is a biopharmaceutical company, it also dabbles in arms. Haha, it produces medicine to save lives on the one hand, and manufactures arms to kill people on the other. It's ironic, isn't it? The door of the hive was opened. Damn it, one of our members was killed. As soon as we entered the door, a monster was lying on the ceiling of the hive in trance, quietly waiting for us like hunting. Lizu paused. He remembered the roadblock at the door. He died there many times. The damn monster is not only agile and powerful, but also not afraid of bullets at all. We sacrificed too many people, but we haven't even walked 1/10 of the way to the underground hive. The footsteps are getting louder and louder. They are the corpses of those who are not very agile. They are all researchers killed by Red Queen in the hive. Although they are not monsters that can climb walls, there are too many of them. A conservative estimate of 300 people. I don't even have 300 bullets. What exactly did Red Queen do? Why can the corpses move? Lizu turned a page. He glanced at the female corpse, then lowered his head and continued to read the diary. Dead again. Dead again. Which one? Ha. The pen turned. We finally arrived at the Red Queen's main computer room, but there are not many people left. Alice took a few people to take another route, hoping they can escape. Kaplan is shutting down Red Queen. This bitch, she didn't expect this day to come. Ha ha ha. What is that? Spence was grabbed by the neck, and I can hear the sound of his bones breaking little by little. Kaplan, damn it. Now, everyone is dead. That eye has seen me. My body has lost consciousness. Oh, I was bitten by those corpses a few times before. I'm afraid it won't be long before I become like them. Rather than dying in their hands, I might as well make a choice myself. The diary ends here. Lizu closed the diary and put it in his pocket. There are more terrible things in the hive than the liquor. For Lizu, whether it is the tyrant or the ordinary zombie, it is enough to give him a headache. Stink. Lizu's nose twitched slightly. He could indeed smell the faint stink in the air. That is to say, the monster that killed Lane's 2 companions is still nearby. It is not for eating, but for hunting. Rustling, it sounds like the rubbing of its belly on the ground. Lizu turned around and saw a huge eyeball, as big as a volleyball. The eyeball grew on the shoulder and raised high, like a head, but the body that was swaying on the ground was like limbs. It must be the monster in Lane's diary. Drive William Birkin, nice to meet you. Shirley's father, a product of the G-virus, appeared here, which meant that Lizu was right. Lizu ignored William Birkin and walked into the laser channel. The door of the laser channel closed, and William Birkin, who had crawled over, was blocked outside the glass door. Lizu was not panicked and said, "Password, Veronica, the secret is correct." Ding ding, the door of the computer room opened. It seems that she didn't lie to me. Lizu nodded and walked into the computer room. Zizzy, the red projection flickered, and the flashing figure of Red Queen appeared in front of Lizu. The one I saw last time was not so disabled. Put that thing into the laser channel and cut it into pieces. This was the first time that Lizu communicated with artificial intelligence in a real sense. Red Queen's work efficiency was extremely high. The door opened, and William Birkin, who had crawled into the channel, was instantly covered by the laser net. Even if it was a monster caused by the G-virus, it would never be possible to revive after being cut into 5cm pieces of meat. Now was the time for him and Red Queen to be alone. How many people are left in the hive? No one. What about Raccoon City? No. Lizu's brows twitched. Something seemed amiss. If Red Queen wasn't lying, it only meant that he was the only one in this city, or even the entire dream. Everything in the dream could be taken away, and he might be the only one there. 100% world exploration. Build a world for me. This was a big reward. Now Lizu had to continue with his next plan. If he didn't intend to give up a world that belonged entirely to him, then the integration of the T-virus must be accelerated. The safe passage in Area B is open. Please go. Chapter 310. Drinking coffee. Look, this city is a mess now. Bang, the coffee cup was gently placed on the table. Barbara Gordon looked up at the old man sitting opposite her. My place is not good either. Barry Allen reached out to lift the gray hair that fell and looked at the busy traffic outside the window. The city is waking up from the disaster caused by the laughing bat. Humans have infinite adaptability, and even this Sin City is full of vitality. Have you seen that kid? Barbara asked. Barry Allen nodded. He runs very fast. The aging of his body seemed to slow down his speed as well, and he behaved more and more like an old man. Barbara said, he is still too young. I have investigated. He is in the 6th grade of elementary school, although he will soon enter middle school. But I don't have much time. Barry's tone was very calm. According to his previous thoughts, a 10-year-old child may not necessarily become a superhero, even if he has super speed. Even if he is determined to become a superhero, it is too early to receive training at the age of 10. But it's different now. If we wait until the child with super speed grows up to teach him, Barry Allen would have been lying in the grave by then. You have your action plan. Barbara Gordon said no more. Barry didn't intend to let the air go quietly. I heard that there is a huntress in this city. HMM. Barbara seemed not to want to mention the other party. I never heard that he has a daughter. His words indirectly showed that he already knew the true identity of the huntress. I will continue to investigate, and I don't intend to let her go. Barbara's words also expressed another meaning. Don't touch the huntress. Barry Allen smiled, and the corners of his eyes squeezed out the ravines of years. Central City is enough for me to be busy. I was almost killed by the rogues this morning. Although he said it easily, Barbara could guess the danger. None of the attacks launched by the villains were a joke. They all wanted to kill superheroes, and made plans before taking action. Will justice definitely defeat evil? Perhaps the death of superheroes and the fall of Batman began to wake people up. This coffee chat didn't last too long. They weren't familiar with each other, but they were both superheroes, so they could communicate a little. Barry Allen left quickly because he was worried about Central City. He meant that he could still hold on for a while, but Kid Flash was indeed too young, and his mind could easily change. He hoped that Batgirl could teach Kid Flash. As a Lone Ranger, Batgirl didn't want to take this job, but the other party's next sentence made her suddenly alert. Kid Flash knows Toyman. Toyman is one of Gotham's biggest troubles now. Batgirl has never had a perfect plan to catch him. If Kid Flash also joins the enemy camp, the city can be completely declared fallen. Barry Allen's next words really made her feel that the problem was difficult. I know Toyman wants the Speed Force, and he does have that kind of power. As long as there is enough Speed Force, he can continuously produce Flashes who obey his orders. Kid Flash may become a generator. In the afternoon, school was over with music. Wally West was the first to rush out of the school gate dragging his school bag. He rushed into an empty alley on the side, ignoring the severe cold, and quickly unzipped his down jacket. If I were you, I wouldn't take off all my clothes here. A woman's voice came from above. Wally looked up, and the first thing that caught his eye was a dark cloak. Batgirl squatted on the wall like a cat, looking down at him through her hood. Batgirl? He didn't continue to take off his clothes. It was definitely not gentlemanly to take off clothes in front of a lady. Moreover, if he ran at this time, it would expose the fact that he was the Flash Boy. There are 3 cameras here. As long as you run, I believe someone will know tomorrow that there is a Flash Boy in this city, and who the Flash Boy is. Wally was shocked. How do you know? Are you going to steal firefighter uniforms, or running around on the street at night? More than a dozen surveillance cameras have already captured your face. Batgirl jumped down lightly, landing at a height of 2 floors, her body not shaking. She looked at Wally West, who was as tall as her chest, and said, "Thank me, Kit, otherwise you wouldn't be taking off your clothes leisurely here now. You helped me?" Wally was surprised. He believed in Batgirl very much. She was a superhero. Batgirl continued, "You are too immature and have not received sufficient training. There are still many scary guys lurking in this city. You can't do anything just by being impulsive." The little guy lowered his head. "What can I do?" "Wait, do you mean you want to train me?" He understood the other party's hidden meaning. His little face suddenly changed from listless to excited. "Wally?" There was a girl's puzzled voice outside the alley, and there were footsteps getting closer and closer. "What's the matter?" He was startled. If someone saw him and Batgirl together, it would definitely be cool. If it was before, he would definitely be happy to do so, but now he knew that the first thing he had to do was to protect his identity. Otherwise, his parents would be the first to be hurt. The 3 people who came were Kitty, Corey, and Anna. "You rushed out of the classroom as soon as school was over, just to stay here?" Kitty looked at Wally in confusion. Wally turned around, and sure enough, Batgirl had disappeared without a sound. As expected of Batgirl, he admired her in his heart, but explained, "I dropped something here, and I'm looking for it. Did you find it?" Anna was very enthusiastic. "Do you want me to help you?" Wally shook his head quickly. "No, I found it already. Is that so? By the way, Wally, I'm sorry about what happened last night." She was referring to the strong man who suddenly broke into the birthday party last night. "I'm fine," Kitty mocked mercilessly on the side. "Of course he's fine. He was the fastest runner last night." Wally really wanted to tell everything that happened last night. Even if it was Shirley who was the main attacker, he did rush up, not a coward. They saved the world last night. "Let's go, Anna. Let's go to the hospital to see your parents." Kitty grabbed Anna's wrist and pulled her out of the alley. The three girls walked away. Wally breathed a sigh of relief. Batgirl's voice suddenly appeared behind Wally. I thought you would not be able to help but say it. Wally shuddered. His neck turned stiffly like a spring and looked at Batgirl. Are you always so elusive? Batgirl didn't answer at all. She shot out the rope, jumped onto the wall, and turned around and said, let me see what you can do. Follow me. Didn't you say that if you use the speed force here, you will be seen? When Wally looked up to ask the question, Batgirl had disappeared from his sight. This won't do. Wally gritted his teeth and ran out of the alley. A few seconds later, a flash of lightning galloped on the streets of Gotham. Thank you Sky's Border for the 2 100 starting coins reward. I will be going on a long trip recently, and I will continue to update. I guess I won't be away for too long. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311 Perfect Crime. Bang, the rope flew out, entangled with the gargoyle statue on the wall. Batgirl swung on the rope, crossed the street, and swung her body in a large parabola. The glider unfolded, the airflow balanced up and down, carrying her across the 10-meter wide street. Just before her body fell, Batgirl raised her hand again, and the rope flew out. This time it entangled the gargoyle on the nearby wall. Gotham's buildings are tall and thin. As a city with thick clouds and rain all year round, the roofs are built very steeply, which is beneficial to the drainage of the roofs. After hundreds of years of improvement, the architectural style has gradually combined with Gotham's gloomy weather, and it looks very much like the vampire castle in the movie. Not bad. Speed. Batgirl saw a flash of lightning from the corner of her eyes. Kid Flash was running on the street, gesturing at her, as if to say, it's a piece of cake to keep up with you. I haven't been provoked for a long time. Batgirl shot out the rope again and swung to another building. The sun was setting, the street lights were on, the city seemed to never stop. The light at night was sometimes more dazzling than during the day. Batgirl squatted on the roof, watching the figure below slow down to the point where it was visible to the naked eye, the corners of her mouth slightly raised. I. Kid Flash held his knees and panted heavily. At first he was very confident, wasn't it Batgirl? As long as he took a step, he would definitely be able to catch up. He thought so 2 hours ago, but as he ran on, things became a little different. It's not that his speed couldn't match Batgirl. Even if the other party could fly, she couldn't be as fast as him. But every time he was about to catch up, a trap would explode on the road. Ropes, iron nets, and even thumbtacks. After stepping on the nails for the second time, Kid Flash not only made up his mind to thicken his boots, but also paid more attention to scanning the streets, paying attention to the dangers that might appear on the roadside at any time. This also greatly reduced his speed. After 2 hours, Batgirl didn't catch up. He was not only exhausted, but also too nervous, and felt dizzy. The sound of a cape opening came from above his head. Kid Flash looked up, and saw Batgirl falling from the sky. She always appeared suddenly from anywhere. Not bad, she said. Hearing Batgirl's affirmation, Kid Flash's frustration was swept away. Then when will our training start? Batgirl's mouth curled up slightly. It was interesting for her to scold a young boy when you can catch up with me. Kid Flash said indignantly, just don't use those tricks. I can catch up with you in just a blink of an eye. Then the training will never start. There was always a sense of not being able to refuse when she spoke. Looking at the adult woman who was a head taller than him, Kid Flash lowered his head in submission. Batgirl raised her head and looked at the direction of the merchant bridge not far from here and said, it's dark. You should go home, Kid Flash. Let me go with you. Let's protect this city together. He volunteered. You saw my speed, right? It will definitely help you. You should go home. When I admit that you can stand on your own. She looked at Kid Flash, and Kid Flash raised his head to meet her gaze. The woman's beautiful eyes had a strong pressure that made it impossible to look into her eyes. Finally, Kid Flash couldn't bear it anymore, lowered his head, and avoided her sight. Okay, you're right. When will our next game of hide and seek start? How can I find you? He asked. I'll find you. The cloak was spread out, and Batgirl had disappeared into the night. Next to the gargoyle on the roof, Batgirl watched the lightning disappear at the end of the street, and the slight smile on her face was put away. When night came, her work should officially begin, and she was destined not to have an easy night. The channel switched to the Gotham Police Department channel. Another report received. Unidentified corpse. Damn, when will this city be quiet? When did another serial killer come to Gotham? The voice of the police in the channel sounded very angry. Serial murder case. Batgirl spread her glider and flew towards the Merchant Bridge. The glider was opened by the wind, and the end kept shaking. The Merchant Bridge was in sight. There was a warning banner raised by the police in front, but there were no police. The police in this city were already very busy with the incident caused by the guy in bandages some time ago. Now they have no time to deal with new cases, and it is difficult to spare manpower. After landing, Batgirl ran forward 2 steps and finally stood in front of the body. When she got closer, she didn't smell too strong a smell of blood. This shows that this serial killer has a set of understanding of the human body. The body wrapped in a hospital gown, with its back against the wall, and a pure white mask on its face. The hospital gown played a wrapping role, so that the body would not fall apart. Batgirl reached out and took off the mask. She felt her stomach churning. This was definitely one of the most disgusting scenes Batgirl had ever seen. She didn't know who could do such a cruel act, and the face that was changed so much could no longer be seen from its original appearance. She shifted her attention to other directions. Failure white spray paint was left next to the body. Failure? Batgirl looked at the word and stopped stiffly. It was not because she thought of anything because of this word, but because she felt a little sticky and disgusting under her feet. She lifted her foot and looked down. The sticky substance under her feet was vomit. The night was too dark and the corpse was so eye-catching that she ignored the vomit on the ground. At the same time, another voice came from the Gotham Police Department channel. The forensic doctor sent vomited after seeing the body. We can't mobilize new personnel. Could it be that the body was left there before the on-site evidence collection was completed? Batgirl already knew who the vomit under her feet came from. It's unrecognizable. She meant vomit. Batgirl suppressed her nausea and observed the body carefully. She reached out and grabbed the wrist of the corpse. The fingers were corroded by strong acid, and there are no fingerprints. This is difficult. It seems that this is a very experienced repeat offender. The nameless corpse, without fingerprints, suddenly appeared in Gotham. If she was asked to find it, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Technology is advancing. She reached behind her waist, took out the sampling instrument under her cloak, and inserted the needle into the body. Beep, beep. The sampling was successful. The blood sample analysis was very fast, but this time Batgirl did not get any useful information. The body was overdosed with analgesics, and the DNA was damaged. It may not be easy to find his original identity from the body. Batgirl paused. This time the situation was special, and she had to make a compromise, even though that person was not suitable as a companion. Hunter, do you have any way to help me identify a body? Huntress seemed to be online 24 hours a day. The moment Batgirl tried to contact her, she gave an answer. Body? Gotham's unidentified body. The perpetrator is very powerful and has hidden all the clues. If we can't identify who this person is, I'm afraid the murderer will go unpunished. I have a deep tissue scanner here that can help you complete the test. Huntress paused and added, remote control. Batgirl's computer skills are very strong. Using remote control is undoubtedly the same as self-destruction, but since Huntress mentioned this method, it means she really wants to help. Chapter 312 The Sixth Body. Batgirl muttered the name, Deep Tissue Scanner. It can directly detect the body from the skin, muscles, and bones. The female hunter paused and said, technology is improving. Soon, the two sides successfully connected. Good technology. Batgirl looked at the interface that had changed drastically in front of her. After signal transmission was no longer a problem, some high-tech technologies that required hardware configuration could be directly achieved by relying on high-intensity signal transmission. The Wayne family had their own private satellite, and no one could limit the speed. She began to examine the body, starting from the feet. The deep tissue scanner allowed her to directly avoid the step of forensic autopsy of the body, and everything became simple and fast. There is nothing wrong with the skin. No, his ears are a little deformed. It doesn't affect the appearance, but I don't think there are many ears like this. The information interlacing comparison has begun. It is more convenient to have the female hunter to help remotely than for Batgirl to compare by herself. At the muscle level. She paused. There's something in the stomach. Can it be scanned? The huntress said. A ring. Ring? For Hanny, the huntress replied. The ring was swallowed into the stomach, but it has never been excreted. The deceased is related to Hanny, and now the target group can be narrowed down a little bit. Bone scan. Batgirl stared at the right calf of the deceased. It was just mailed not long ago, and it hasn't healed yet. I think the hospital should have information. Sure enough, the huntress's voice came later. It was found out. The deceased's name is Christopher Kirk, a sewer repairman. Hanny is his ex-wife. She divorced him 3 months ago, but it's a bit strange. Christopher disappeared 2.5 months ago. At that time, his relationship was not going well, so he left the Gotham City. The last time he appeared was 2.5 months ago, drinking in a bar in the countryside of Gotham. Batgirl asked, are you saying that someone found him, killed him and brought him back here? Yes, the two fell silent. What does the murderer want? This is a question that bothers them at the same time. Why did the other party capture Christopher Kirk, a plumber, and turn him into such a disgusting appearance? Does he have an enemy? If the man who stole his ex-wife is an enemy, the words of the huntress also indirectly indicate that Christopher Kirk's ex-wife and his ex-wife's boyfriend have nothing to do with this matter. There is a second body. Batgirl turned around and shot a rope at the steel frame of the bridge. After her body jumped into the air, the glider unfolded. She said, I will definitely catch him. People who do such horrible and disgusting things are unforgivable. The second body also wore a pure white mask. Batgirl took off the mask again, as she expected. The stomach acid that had just calmed down due to the cold wind during the high altitude gliding began to surge again. The body was also erased of any information that could be found. Batgirl started scanning again. There's nothing wrong with the skin. Wait, there's a serious skin injury on his chest. It's a tattoo. It seems that the tattoo is an important piece of information. She continued to monitor. There's no problem with the muscles, bones. The little finger on the right hand is a prosthesis, and the left eye is a prosthetic eye. The female hunter has found out the identity of the other party based on the information and compared it. She said, Robert Lee, a dentist of unknown fame, accidentally hurt Penguin when he was maintaining his teeth. That's how he got his prosthetic eye. The prosthesis was due to an accident. Batgirl stood up, took 2 steps back, looked at the word failure written next to the body, and asked, what's the connection between him and the previous one? Comparing the information, there is no connection. They have lived together in this city for more than 30 years, but have never heard of each other, and the people around them don't know each other. Where is the place of disappearance? Batgirl asked. Compared to nothing, Robert Lee disappeared in a park. The female hunter sounded very busy. She should still be doing other work, and helping Batgirl should be just a side job. She could have just let go and let Batgirl investigate on her own, but if there was a hint of conspiracy theory, it would be easy to explain. They were not friends, but the case had tied them together. I'll go take a look at the third body. Batgirl blended into the night sky. It began to drizzle in the sky, and in December, it made people's faces red with cold. In front of the third body, there was a female corpse. Now it can be seen that this serial killer with the ability of perfect crime did not target only men. Female, her body, are these shark teeth marks? Sharks from the north of Gotham Port, Huntress said. Batgirl continued to explore. Her knuckles have calluses, which should be from long-term beating. She is a boxer. One of the kidneys is missing, and it was not just removed. Bitten by a shark, a boxer, and missing a kidney, almost at the same time. After cross-checking the information, the true identity of the body was found. The female hunter said, when Elsie Nelson was little, her whole family discovered her talent for surfing. But she was bitten by a shark that time. Fortunately, her father was a good shooter. She was born with a talent for sports. Even if she didn't dare to go into the water, she still became famous in boxing. She donated her missing kidney to her sister, who died half a month ago. It was because of the missing kidney that she lost the boxing match. Batgirl asked, what is the connection between her and the previous two people? There is no connection. 3 consecutive bodies, killings without any clues. The other party is either a top killer or a lunatic. Either one is full of danger to the city. Batgirl quickly rushed to the 4th body. The body did not look like a big problem from the surface. However, after turning on the deep tissue scanner, problems immediately appeared. There are fragments of a pacemaker in the right ventricle, which is relatively intact. If we investigate by referring to the manufacturer and the pacing method, we can immediately narrow the search scope. The knee is deformed, which is obvious juvenile arthritis. People with this disease will get worse day by day. However, after the investigation, the information obtained was limited. They found out the true identity of the victim, but they could not find out who the murderer was. The 5th body was the same. In front of the 6th body, Batgirl squatted. The position where the word failure was written was the same as the previous 5 bodies. Batgirl carefully examined. The surface of the skin was bleached, which is a chemical burn, most likely some kind of chlorine-based substance. And 1 finger on his right hand was cut off, but there are still 5 fingers. He was born with a genetic disorder and has 6 fingers. Thank you book friend 2017012613381438 for the reward of 100 starting coins. Chapter 313 Pigface. Jackson Anderson. As expected, the female hunter had found the information of the deceased worker of Ace Chemical Plant. Ace Chemical Plant? Batgirl looked at the unrecognizable corpse working in the chemical plant. His body was affected by drugs. This was consistent with the situation of the corpse. She continued to ask, where was he last seen before he disappeared? It was near the chemical plant. There are not many surveillance cameras there, so he may have been caught somewhere else. The female hunter finally said her inner guess. Batgirl said, in any case, their bodies were sent back to Gotham. The 6 bodies are all the victims related to the serial murder case, and these 6 victims have no connection with each other, whether it is their circle of friends, work circle, or even the last location before disappearance. The clue is broken. Batgirl turned around and looked at the city she wanted to protect. The same killing method is the only clue, but the 6 people who would never be intertwined with each other could not provide her with any information. Batgirl suddenly said, give me the last location they appeared. The 6 locations were scattered in various corners of Gotham City. They were neither a circle nor a straight line. They looked like they were walking around randomly. Has anyone walked through these 6 locations recently? Such a strange route map meant that not many people had walked through them. There is a circus that is touring. The person in charge is called Laszlo Valentine. Circus? I'll send you the information. I have something to do here. The huntress voice sounded a little wrong. In a blink of an eye, she had disconnected the communication. Then, Batgirl received the message from the other party, which was the location of the circus. Batgirl looked up at the night sky. It seems that I will be busy tonight. Just investigating the 6 bodies scattered in the city has already passed most of the night. Now there are only a few hours left before dawn, and it is also the darkest time of the night. The rope took Batgirl to the high wall. After a run up, the glider unfolded and Batgirl quickly approached the location of the circus. While rushing to the target, Batgirl had already investigated the relevant information of Laszlo Valentine through the RISC computer. A well-known chemist, but not long ago he suddenly formed a strange circus and started touring the country. Batgirl stopped at the location of the circus and looked up at the flashing red and blue neon lights. The name of the doll shop reminded her of another trouble in Gotham, and her thoughts were quickly withdrawn. The door was not closed, and Batgirl pushed it open and walked in. There were 3 mirrors that were sloppily wiped and covered with dust in the backstage dressing room decorated with red curtains. On the wall directly opposite the mirror, hung a poster of a circus clown. The poster was old, and must have been there for some time. A fan with a deflated party balloon tied to it was slowly turning. Batgirl's eyes swept across the radiator on the wall and the closed doors of several rooms around her, and finally looked at the door farthest from her. The door was half open and there was a faint singing voice coming out. The American tenor had a lot of breath. and an hour was long lasting, but the music was too heavy and people couldn't hear it clearly. She pushed open the door. Behind the door was not a ladder, but cement steps leading to the basement. Compared with the carefully decorated dressing room, the basement passage with broken soil and peeling wall paint was definitely a terrible environment. Just after walking down the cement steps, Batgirl suddenly stopped. Someone. After holding her breath and concentrating, she found that it was a doll model without hands and feet, standing by the wall. The empty eyes faced Batgirl. The serial murders tonight really affected her spirit. Whether it was the skilled means of handling corpse information or the means of making various changes to the human body, it made her realize that her goal this time was not ordinary. She continued to walk deeper underground. After passing through 2 pipes and stepping over an iron filter, a huge and simple stage appeared in Batgirl's eyes. There were 2 huge fill lights on the stage, and at least half of the bulbs of the left fill light were broken. In the center was a crude operating table. Operating tables of this width and size are usually found in dental hospitals. When you need to clean your teeth, treat cavities, and other problems, you have to lie on the operating table and cannot move. It's not just for safety reasons, but more because there is no extra space. Maybe it's not wrong to call it a bed. The dusty glass blocked her view. She could only see a person in the distance with his back to her, holding a knife in his hand, gesturing at the person on the operating table. There was no need to guess. This person must be her target of this trip, Laszlo Valentine. Batgirl walked forward quickly. The air was indeed full, but without the music from a distance. The American singing style sounded more like the cry of a pig being slaughtered. Woo. Ah. There were still people screaming. It was the person lying on the bed, begging for mercy. Please, let me go. I can't stand it anymore. HMPH. The singing was interrupted with a sound similar to that of a pig. The pig face is making you better. Sadness and pain are all proof that you are becoming perfect. The singing of your body is also a thank you to yourself, to the pig face. HMPH. Laszlo Valentine's voice went from a low whisper to a frenzy, and his emotions were completely out of control. After circling half a circle and finding the entrance, the Batgirl finally saw Laszlo Valentine's appearance. He was wearing a blood-stained apron, like an executioner. He wore a pig face mask on his face. The knife in his right hand gestured on the person, but he was reluctant to cut, instead waving his left hand. He seemed to have become a conductor, and the arc drawn by his fingers could drive the conversion of notes. Seeing how immersed he was in it, he must like the symphony very much. Huff, huff. The sound of grunting interrupted the scene in an inelegant way. This is the mission of the pig-faced man. The knife in his hand slowly fell towards the person on the bed. Batgirl walked towards the stage. She glanced at the trembling victims in the cages around her, and then said to the pig-faced man, Laszlo Valentine, it's time to surrender, bastard. Surrender? No. Look at him. The pig-faced man pointed at the person on the operating table. He has problems. He is broken. His insides are a mess. But the pig-faced man made him better. The pig-faced man makes everyone better. Batgirl responded with a flying kick. Boom. The pig-faced man rolled out and fell to the ground, grunting and screaming. You should be thankful that I'm here today. If it was someone else. Batgirl glanced at the pig-faced man who fell to the ground, and her eyes quickly fell on the operating table. Chapter 314. Hundreds of twins. Batgirl looked at the person on the bed and asked tentatively, how do you feel? The other person didn't move. The white puppet mask was worn on his face, as if it was worn on a corpse. Only through the empty eye holes of the puppet mask could one see the white bandage behind it, which was still soaked with blood. Hehe, the pig-faced man can create humans. The pig-faced man is God. Hehe, the fallen pig-faced man howled. He got up, and the knife in his hand accidentally cut himself, because he fell to the ground just now, and he was bleeding profusely. He was broken, and the pig-faced man fixed him. Just like you, Batgirl, the pig-faced man will fix you. The pig-faced man shook his body, and tried to raise the knife, to chop at the Batgirl, but the dizziness in his head was still there, so the pig-faced man didn't stand firmly, and fell to the ground again. Madman. Batgirl said. She had seen many difficult characters, but it was undeniable that the madness of the pig-faced man made her feel uncomfortable. Just now, she had determined that the pig-faced man was just a mentally disturbed lunatic, and such people were not uncommon in Gotham. Every lunatic will cause a great disturbance in Gotham, which is definitely not a good sign. Seeing that the person on the bed had not responded, Batgirl reached out to the person on the operating table to wake him up. But the other person suddenly reached out to grab her. She took a step back to dodge. Look, let her see how perfect you are, Pigface, stood up and cheered. Batgirl dodged 2 backflips in a row and looked at the person who stood up from the bed. The person took a stance, with his right fist in front and his left fist behind, and his legs spread apart, but he didn't take a big stance, but was swaying instead. Go, ha 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 ha. Pigface was still laughing. Pigface wants to see Batgirl's blood. Batgirl always disappoints people. She has to bleed, woo, bleed, snort, bleed, and then Pigface will fix her and turn her into a cute little bat. Little bat, little bat, la little bat. Pigface went from mumbling to laughing, and then turned into a high-pitched, harsh and unpleasant singing. Batgirl stood up and kicked, knocking over the staggering victim. Bang, the man was kicked down. You should take a break, lunatic. Batgirl raised her leg to step over the person who was kicked down and walk towards Pigface, but she suddenly stopped and her black cloak was grabbed. Turning around, the person who was kicked down by her actually stood up slowly. Batgirl was alert. The place where I kicked just now should have made even a trained fighter faint. Huff, ha ha ha. Pigface's work. Pigface's perfect hundreds. No weaknesses. Pigface was still laughing. Did you transform his body? Hearing Pigface's words, Batgirl got an answer in her heart. Her kicks could indeed make people faint, but that was only limited to normal people. If Pigface changed the position of the blood vessels of the hundreds, so that she could not instantly block the blood transport and hypoxia when she kicked and fainted, this means that she will encounter an enemy that she cannot fight with human common sense. The fatal attacks in the past may not have the slightest effect. Batgirl turned around suddenly, and the heel of her left foot hit the shoulder of the hundreds. Bang, the shoulder bone collided with the long boots, and the hundreds were immediately knocked to the ground, but the next moment, the hundreds staggered and climbed up again. It was a minor injury. The hundred is perfect, and you will soon become perfect too. Swoosh. As Pigface spoke, a rapid sound of breaking through the air came from behind Batgirl. She turned around abruptly, and her cape was torn into a large net, wrapping up the knife that flew behind her head. She turned twice more and completely entangled the knife. She turned her body sideways, threw her cape away suddenly, and smashed the knife in the opposite direction towards Pigface. With a bang, it hit Pigface's forehead. Pigface, head grunt, dizzy. Pigface obviously did not transform himself and was hit on the head by the handle of the knife, and he immediately fell to the ground. On the other side, the hundred stood up again. Batgirl looked at the staggering hundred and said, I don't believe you are not afraid of being beaten in every place. She rushed over and hit the hundred's cheeks with a quick punch. The quick punch impact made the hundred's head tilt back continuously, and the body lost weight and fell to the ground with a bang. Batgirl's combination punch attack did not end. Punch after punch, with no intention of stopping at all. Bang. With the last 2 fists, they smashed down. The hundred twins tilted their heads and finally stopped struggling. It seems that they are not really invulnerable. She stood up and looked at the Pigface who had already stood up. The Pigface was screaming, Pigface! Pigface! How could you destroy Pigface's good toys? Destroy Pigface's good works? Pigface! Pigface! Ah! Rumble. The surrounding iron doors were pushed open, and another staggering figure walked out. One after another. They were wearing worn-out hospital gowns, bandages wrapped around their bodies, and a pure white mask on their faces. 100 twins. Batgirl was ready for battle. She had seen the fighting power of 100 twins just now. Such a group of monster cyborgs who were not afraid of pain, had great strength, and were difficult to be knocked out gathered together, putting Batgirl in danger. Kill her. Pigface threw a knife at Batgirl again. At this time, Batgirl was under siege, but the knife attack still did not escape her eyes. She quickly opened her cape wrapped it around the knife, and drew a circle quickly, then rotated with her toes as the center, and the knife hit back. Boom. It hit Pigface's face again. Pigface. Pigface staggered and held onto the table. After another failed sneak attack, he found that it was difficult to win with fists in a fight with Batgirl. Batgirl has gradually figured out Pigface's way of action. He can transform people into pain-free 100 twins, and he can also make this group of people listen to his orders. No, he's going to run. After kicking another attacker away, Batgirl found that Pigface was staggering and pushing open a flashing iron door and walking in. A madman, a serial killer. If he was allowed to escape, the consequences would be disastrous. Batgirl had almost no hesitation. After kicking over the 200 twins in front of her, she had already jumped up and spread her glider. But the 100 twins were not afraid of death and immediately stopped them. Batgirl had to watch Pigface escape. We have to deal with this first. She looked at the dozens of Century around her. It was almost dawn, and the night of the city was about to end, but the day that was coming would not be so bright and full of hope. The situation has become a little serious recently. If it is not necessary, try to stay out as little as possible. Today I finally went home. Chapter 315 Todd Kincaid. Boom. Batgirl stopped punching. She bent over, panting, using her fists to hit a group of meat targets that would not fall or get tired, had exhausted all of Batgirl's physical strength. The moment she stopped, the sky was bright. The hundreds of twins who had lost their ability to move were lying on the ground in all directions. Batgirl, the only one standing in the field, was like a god of war. She quickly found the button and released the innocent people who had been caught by the pig-faced, but not yet harmed. Thank God, thank God. A black lady rushed out of the cage and knelt on the ground to thank the gods. Although the person who really saved her was right in front of her, and she witnessed it with her own eyes, defeating the enemy with punch after punch and releasing her, the lady still knelt on the ground and thanked the gods loudly. Woo 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 woo. A lady in uniform was crying. When Batgirl was about to go forward to comfort the other person, a man who had also escaped walked over and hugged the other person. It's okay, everything will be fine. Batgirl stood there, looking at people who were either crying, or at a loss, or praying to God, and for a moment she actually felt that she was a little redundant. But, girl, fortunately, not everyone has forgotten her savior. Thank you for saving us. The man was wearing a striped suit, and was not very old. I was kidnapped from New York, he introduced himself. That day I was tracking the sewer phantom in New York, and then I met Pigface. I was captured by Pigface all the way, but he never hurt me, as if he was ready to let me witness something. I'm a staunch atheist, and perhaps this made him like it. The man continued. Pigface also has an assistant. Although that person suddenly quit, he is definitely not clean, and he is in Gotham. In Gotham? What's his name? Todd Kincaid. Todd Kincaid. Batgirl chewed the name over and over again. In the early morning, it was another refreshing day. In an apartment not far from Wayne Building, a man with a golden beard sat up. The double bed was empty. That was normal, yeah, normal. The man rubbed his right arm first, then raised his hands, and rubbed his face vigorously, scratched his messy hair twice, and then got out of bed to put on his clothes. After washing up in the bathroom, the man walked into the kitchen, fried eggs, and toasted bread slices. He had already started to do it with ease. Kumi, get up. The man walked to the door next to his bedroom, on which there was a Dumbo sticker. A mumbling voice came from the room. Well, it's the weekend today. Dad, did you forget that we are going to the park today? The man asked back. I remembered. Wait for me. I'll get up right away. The son's voice was excited. The man smiled. Don't forget to wear more clothes. It's still cold now. Got it, nagging man. The man was stunned, but the door opened with a click. The 10-year-old boy, who was wearing a down jacket with the zipper unzipped and the down jacket stuck in his pants, looked up at the man and said, "It was my mother who said that. He always said you were nagging." Nagging, really? Sometimes I just want to ask you to do something more. He looked at his son's enthusiastic look and said, "Although I know you want to go out and play, you have to wash your face and brush your teeth first. You are wearing too many clothes now." But Kimmy muttered, "I can't wait." The man squatted down, tidied his son's clothes, turned out the collar, and zipped it up. You have to wash it too, just wear it. Because of his wife's special reasons, the man now wants to be a qualified father and not let his son have too much disappointment. A few minutes later, his son, Kimmy, had already rushed out of the toilet and ran straight to the door. He grabbed a piece of toast on the table with his wet hands and shouted to the man, "Dad, hurry up." Kimmy, looking at his son who had already run out of the room, the man shook his head and sighed, put on his clothes and followed him. It didn't snow, and the park was very dry. This was the most annoying thing about this park all year round. The benches in winter would freeze your buttocks. There were only bare tree trunks, and just wearing thick clothes, people couldn't feel good. Run slower. Looking at his son running fast, the man exhaled a white breath. Just when he was about to catch up, a black shadow forced him to stop. Batgirl, the superhero of this city. And he could imagine why the superhero would find him. Todd Kincaid? Batgirl was standing in the shadow of the tree. Even in the daytime, she could still find a corner suitable for her to hide. Batgirl, I don't think we have anything to say. Kimmy, let's go home. Todd Kincaid walked forward nervously and called his son to hurry up and go with him. Batgirl reached out her hand first and stopped Todd Kincaid. You have been an assistant to Pigface for a while, she said. Sure enough, Todd Kincaid's heart beat, and what he feared came true. I'm sorry for what I did, but now I just want a peaceful life. I'm away from him. Pigface is in Gotham and just escaped from my hands. If you don't want anyone to get hurt. Batgirl looked Todd Kincaid up and down, ignoring his strong muscular figure that couldn't be covered even with a down jacket. She said, or you don't want to get hurt yourself. Batgirl kicked out instantly and stepped on Todd Kincaid's ankle with her soul, relying on the strength of her body to press on the other's knee, and at the same time, she punched out quickly, directly into Todd Kincaid's left ear. But the high-speed slap pressed the wind into Todd Kincaid's ear, causing Todd Kincaid's head to explode with pain, and even the counterattack he had thought of at the beginning was not used. Ugh. He fell to the ground with his head covered. Now, help me contact Pigface, and I promise that, as long as Pigface shows up, he will be caught immediately, and you can't refuse. With the fist right in front of him, Todd Kincaid had no choice but to take out his mobile phone. He should be thankful that Pigface did not throw away his phone and quickly answered his call. It's me, I'm Todd Kincaid, he said as soon as the call was connected. Oh ha 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 ha, humph, it's you, coward assistant. The voice on the other end of the phone was indeed Pigface. His voice sounded cheerful, without the pain of being hunted by Batgirl. I have something to talk to you about. Todd Kincaid now only hoped that the other party would drive quickly, so that he could be more relaxed. Of course, for the sake of your left hand. The phone was quickly hung up. Todd Kincaid looked at Batgirl and said, I should have nothing to do now. Chapter 316, Soft Egg. Dad, the little hand waved in front of Todd Kincaid's eyes. Todd immediately came back to his senses and found that it was his little son. He immediately smiled. Kimmy, what's wrong? Kimmy muttered, you said you would take me to the park to play, but you just stared blankly. Sorry, I just suddenly had something to think about. Pigface came to Gotham and had a conflict with Batgirl. Of course, this is not the most important problem. The most important problem is that he used to be Pigface's helper, and the days of hiding his identity will never come back. Why don't we make a snowman? He said. Make a snowman? But there is no snow here. Today's weather forecast says that the last heavy snow this year will be today. Really? Kimmy was surprised. The father and son sat on a park bench, quietly waiting for the snowflakes to fall. It looked so stupid, but warm. The 300th dream. Area B laboratory. Lizu opened his eyes and saw the familiar laboratory ceiling. The voice of the Red Queen came immediately. According to your temporary modification and feedback, the T-virus fusion experiment was a perfect success. The projection of Red Queen appeared at the head of Lizu's bed. How did you see through so many problems at once? As an artificial intelligence, she has enough curiosity. If you die hundreds of times in an experiment, you will definitely do better than me. Lizu sat up from the bed. The dream was extremely real. He could clearly feel the strength of his body growing continuously. There were no weapons in the laboratory. Lizu smashed the glass, took out the red fire axe on the wall, and dragged it on the ground. Red Queen said nothing, and the projection followed Lizu. Outside the computer room, Dong a liquor fell, and quickly pounced on Lizu. Lizu climbed forward suddenly, lowered his center of gravity, swung the red fire axe in his right hand into a big circle, and smashed it down. Bang! The head of the liquor who had just landed was immediately split in half. Lizu stepped on the licker's head with his right foot and pulled out the fire axe that was immersed in the other's brain. With the last force, it also squeaked and splashed juice. One liquor was obviously just the beginning. There were countless monsters hiding deep in the hive. Lizu stopped suddenly after turning a corner. It was as if he had eyes on the back of his head. He threw his red fire suit backwards. With a clang, the axe hit the wall and fell to the ground. The red tongue turned into lightning and stabbed towards Lizu's head. It was so fast that he could clearly smell the fishy wind. Without the gunfighting skills, he was indeed much worse in fighting. Just when the tongue that turned into lightning was about to pierce Lizu's head, it suddenly stopped. It was only a fist away from the tip of Lizu's nose. With the dim light in the passage, the hideous barbs on the tip of the licker's tongue could be seen, carrying a strong infectiousness. Telekinesis. Lizu slowly raised his left hand and clenched his 5 fingers slowly. In the dark part of the passage wall, something was twisting restlessly, and the long tongue that was stagnant in front of Lizu was also squirming. As Lizu pressed his left hand down, suddenly, the liquor on the wall turned into a heavy hammer and hit the ground. In the dark passage, things kept rushing out from the corner. Lizu dragged the red fire axe in his right hand, raised his left hand, and walked slowly step by step in the dim beehive with flickering lights. He walked along the way, leaving only corpses. In Shirley's room, on the bed, Lizu opened his eyes. It was bright outside, and the window had been smashed by his punch, and was still under repair. A cold wind blew, and snowflakes drilled into the room. Lizu sat up from the bed, and looked at the serum in his hand. G-Virus serum, ding. It was a sound that Lizu had almost forgotten for so long. Telekinesis, master, 54%. He shook his fingers gently, and a pen on the table in the distance flew over. The toy man, who could only rely on the toy to show off his power, seemed to finally have the confidence to stand in front of the superhero. People, you still need to sleep more if you are fine. 10 minutes later, Shirley, who had been injected with serum and stabilized her physical condition, woke up. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw Lizu installing new windows. I asked your teacher for 2 days off, and I have to go to school tomorrow. Shirley got up. She could feel something unusual in her body, but she didn't ask much. She just retorted to Lizu, tomorrow is Sunday. Really? Lizu turned and walked out of the room, but stopped just before closing the door and said, then finish your homework for the weekend. Bang, the room closed. Lizu sat in his toy store, looking at the toys in thousands of square meters. Not enough, not enough. He looked at the broken arm Flash toy. He seemed to be thinking, Dad, it's snowing. Look. Kimmy ran around excitedly. Run slower. Todd had a smile on his face, but there was a deep worry in his eyes. The father and son worked together to make a snowman that was only the size of a fist because the snow had just fallen for a while, but this interaction was enough to make Kimmy happy. On the way home, Todd held his son's hand. Kimmy looked up and said, Dad, Mom said you are a wimp. The 10-year-old boy was very curious. What does wimp mean? When she hadn't left with Uncle Tom yet. That day when you were at work, Uncle Tom came to our house and they went to take a bath together. Hearing this, Todd paused. Although his wife's departure had become a fact, he couldn't help but shudder when he heard the news from his son. I heard it secretly. Mom said you are a wimp. The innocent look in his son's eyes made Todd sigh in his heart. No special meaning. He didn't want to explain the meaning of this sentence to his son. Sometimes he even felt that his wife's evaluation of him was not wrong. Okami obviously didn't get the answer he wanted, but he soon saw the front. What a big snowman. Dad. Kimmy let go of his father's hand and ran towards the big snowman in front. Wait, run slower. Todd hurried to catch up. What a cool snowman. Did you make it? Kimmy looked up and asked the man with a nose ring and a cashmere hat. "Where did you come from, kid?" The other raised his foot and kicked Kimmy. "Kimmy." Todd rushed over at the critical moment. He pulled the child behind him and glared at the bastard who was about to kick his child. Perhaps they saw the conflict here, and several people immediately surrounded him. They should be gang members. Todd took a deep breath, clenched his left fist, and his arm under the down jacket swelled rapidly, but it was blocked by the fat down jacket and could not be seen clearly. "Why, you want to be a heroic father?" Todd lowered his head and looked at the bastards who were obviously not easy to mess with. Sorry, a kick had already been kicked on his shoulder. He is a softie, that's right. Chapter 317 Toy Gang. Ha 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 ha. The group of young gang members did not go too far. They kicked Todd Kincaid to the ground, left a comment of soft egg, and left in a group. Perhaps the weakness of the other party made them feel uninterested, so they let him go. "Dad, are you okay?" Kimmy looked terrified. Todd wiped the footprints on his chest. "Of course I'm fine. Do you want to eat a burger before going home?" Kimmy jumped and raised his hands. Me. Ha ha ha. Todd rubbed his son's head. "Let's go. There is a large cup of Coke today." "Yeah." At night, Crime Alley, a beautiful purple figure passed by. Who? The drunk who was still holding a bottle of wine in his hand suddenly sobered up and quickly pulled out the pistol from his waist. "Who? Get out. Otherwise I will beat you into a sieve." He kept turning his head to prevent someone from attacking from behind and beat himself into a sieve in advance. While on guard, the drunk also slowly moved his steps and walked out of Crime Alley. Swoosh, a rapid sound of breaking through the air came, hitting the drunk's left calf, piercing his calf, the arrow dripping with blood, and hitting the ground. "Ah!" The drunk screamed in pain. With only one leg supporting him, he immediately fell to his knees, which in turn broke the arrow in his leg, making the pain worse, and he screamed even louder. The footsteps came from far away. A pair of long legs appeared in front of the drunk. But at this time, he had no intention of appreciating the beautiful scenery in front of him. He raised his head tremblingly and looked at the person who walked in front of him. Female. Huntress. Sexy figure, charming purple battlesuit, crossbow arrows that never missed, and the brutal means of never letting any bastard go. The Huntress is one of the most terrifying characters in this city. Even more terrifying than Batgirl. Batgirl is at least sure that you will not die if you fall into her hands, but the Huntress has no such taboo. Some people also think that the Huntress is just a paranoid madwoman. There are even newspapers condemning the Huntress's methods, but no matter what people say, she still goes her own way and will not spare anyone who deserves to die. I. The drunk was completely sober at this time, but his tongue became enlarged, and he spoke incoherently. "Toy Gang." Huh. The first time he heard the Huntress speak, the cold voice did not exceed the drunk's expectations, but the name she said scared him. The Huntress asked again, and her voice still sounded emotionless. "Toy Gang. Is Toyman your leader?" "Yes." This time the drunk did not hesitate at all. If one of the truly terrifying characters in this city is said to be the Huntress, there may be a place for it, but if the real king of crime in this city is said to be the rising star after the Joker and the Laughing Bat, Toyman, the Harley Quinn, who has been quiet recently, is his former subordinate. Everyone knows that Harley Quinn is called Yo-Yo, and she is not the same person as the dead Harley Quinn, even though they look exactly the same and do things in exactly the same way. Now no one dares to call Yo-Yo Harley Quinn openly. Those who dare to call her that will either have their mouths sewn shut or have their noses punched. In short, no one is still healthy. In Gotham City, where Batgirl and Huntress exist, almost everyone has been dealt with, but there is only one person who is ignored by the two heroines who protect Gotham. That is Toyman. The villains who are scattered and have lost the protection of gang forces spontaneously formed the Toy Gang. Some of them were members of the Joker gang, some followed the Riddler to compete for the rule of this city, some followed the Scarecrow, and some escaped from the Blackgate prison and prepared to make a big deal. No matter who these people were, they now need a strong enough leader. Toyman is obviously the best choice for this city. He is powerful and never shows mercy in killing. There is not much news about his actions, but this does not prevent people from maliciously boasting about his madness, making him no less than other famous supervillains. The expansion speed of the toy gang has exceeded everyone's expectations. In just a few days, it has spread all over the underground of Gotham. Gotham's underground forces need a new crime king. This is also the recent headache for the Huntress. She knocked the drunkard unconscious with a punch and looked at the crime alley that was completely dark and not illuminated by street lights and the moon, and fell into deep thought. Huntress, there is one thing I have to say. The Toyman may not know the existence of the toy gang. Alfred's voice came from the headset. I know. Huntress walked out of Crime Alley and looked up at the clear sky. She could even see the stars. But that doesn't make any sense. That's right, it doesn't make any sense. Whether the Toyman participates or not, the toy gang exists, and as long as the Toyman exists, the toy gang will always exist. He is a spiritual symbol, even if all gang members don't know this spiritual symbol. But does it matter? They just need a name. A group of people get together and make the city worse. Even if the Toyman dies, there will soon be a clown gang and a riddle gang. The real sick city is the city. No one, help me investigate the nearest toy gang gathering place. Are you planning to? Alfred had a guess. Just as you thought, they come to you one by one. The female hunter rode on the dark purple motorcycle on the side of the road, crawling, showing off her sexy body curves. I can always solve them one by one. Maybe we can use some other methods, such as finding the Toyman. I don't think he is a troublemaker. Number 1, it's not my way to bow to evil. Of course, female hunter. The conversation ended. The motorcycle buzzed the throttle and disappeared into the night with a roar. It was already 1 o'clock in the evening. Just behind Wayne Building, in the alley across the pet hospital, more than 20 people gathered together. They took things out of their pockets. There were Barbie dolls, toy dinosaurs, Rubik's cubes, toy water guns, all kinds of toys. The leading man unzipped his baseball jacket and put the pink unicorn into his clothes. Just this afternoon, a troublesome pighead appeared in our territory, and he has a very capable freak in his hands. Someone immediately laughed. George Harkness, we are from the toy gang. Who in this city can compare with us? Harkness glanced at the other party, his bearded chin trembling. He smiled. Of course, who can compare with the toy gang? So I asked you to come here to kill this bastard. Isn't your boomerang very powerful? Can't it cut off a pig head? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318. I wish you success. When the boomerang was mentioned, everyone looked at George Harkness. Those things are not human. They are not afraid of pain, nor are they afraid of death. George Harkness pulled out his personal boomerang and threw it casually. Whoosh! The wind carried the rapidly spinning boomerang into the night sky. The strange and unpredictable tricky flight trajectory and the boomerang that blended into the night made the boomerang deadly. Ding dong! Exclamation mark. Sparks flew in the distance. The boomerang fell to the ground. Who? The other members of the toy gang reacted, either taking out guns or daggers and looking deep into the dark alley. I say. George Harkness glanced at the boomerang on the ground. His expression became solemn. Go up and kill her directly. She. Obviously George Harkness had guessed who the person was. But no member of the toy gang cared about this detail and rushed forward with weapons. George turned and ran in the opposite direction. Boom, bang, the sound of fists colliding came from behind. George spitted and cursed. Idiot. Swoosh. The sharp arrow pierced George's toes, stopping him from running forward. Hunter. He looked at the person who came. He had guessed the other party's identity long before this. The huntress raised the crossbow in her hand and pointed it at George's nose. Captain Boomerang, are you also a member of the toy gang? Of course. He grinned, revealing 2 rows of yellow teeth. Swoosh, swoosh. 2 arrows flew at him, and he suddenly squatted down with his head in his hands to avoid the arrows. At the same time, his body took advantage of the momentum to roll forward and threw a boomerang in his hand. He did not stop to repel the huntress's next attack. He jumped up to catch the boomerang and threw it with all his strength. Sparks flew in the air, and the boomerang was hit by the arrow and fell to the ground. As expected of the huntress, I surrender, and I'm willing to go to Blackgate prison. He raised his hands obediently, indicating that he was very willing to cooperate. The person in front of him was a female hunter. If he didn't stop when he had the chance, she wouldn't mind wasting an arrow. The female hunter didn't continue to attack. She asked, "How many gathering points are there for the toy gang?" "This is too many." Captain Boomerang didn't lie. "Almost all the low-level thugs in the city have joined the toy gang." He immediately added, "But I know where to find them. Maybe you can catch them all in one fell swoop." This was purely a joke. Toy gang members were spread all over the city. Just catching them all would tire the female hunter to death. Even her speed of catching them was far less than that of the many who joined. The female hunter shook the crossbow in her hand, and George Harkness immediately became much more honest. She asked, "The pig face you mentioned just now?" "Yes, there is a bastard wearing a pig face mask, causing trouble in our territory." George Harkness stamped his feet. It seemed that the pig face really made him very worried. That bastard has a group of monsters in his hands. They are not afraid of pain or death. There is no way to stop them, except to kill them. George Harkness suddenly stopped and looked at the huntress cautiously. "How about I gather the brothers of the toy gang to find trouble with a pig face? It will be easier for you to catch it." The hunter responded with an electric shock bomb. Captain Boomerang's body twitched wildly and fell to the ground after a few seconds, completely fainting. "Hunter, you must not let the pig face and the toy gang conflict." Alfred's voice appeared at the right time. "If two large forces fight, the only one who will suffer in the end is this city." "Well." The huntress looked down at the fainted Captain Boomerang. "There are countless people like him in this city. Their conflict may be irreconcilable. What are you going to do?" "I want to know who is inciting the toy gang in the dark." "Do you have any clues?" Alfred asked. "No, but it's not difficult." She walked into the dark alley. "Tonight's mission is far from over. Capturing as many members of the toy gang as possible is the fastest way to achieve results." In the early morning, just after dawn, Lizu was awakened by a hurried knock on the door. In front of the door was the Flash Boy with a school bag on his back. "Where's Shirley?" Since the Flash Boy knew that his identity was discovered by Lizu and Shirley, he did not regard himself as an outsider at all. Not only did he show his super speed in front of Lizu, but he was also very familiar. "You haven't gotten up yet." Lizu yawned, turned around and walked back to the room, and turned on the TV. "Stay in bed." The Flash Boy was stunned. In his impression, Shirley was definitely a good student. "Stay in bed? I guess so." Lizu only knew that Shirley's physical condition had just stabilized, and it was difficult to say the specific situation. The G-virus remaining in her body, if it is affected by other powerful genes again, it is hard to guarantee that it will not evolve and mutate. "Boy, run so fast. Buy me breakfast." A green banknote has already flown towards the Flash Boy's face. "Manager." Kid Flash looked at the banknotes flying in front of him and caught them with an ugly face. Although the manager was just an ordinary person, he was Shirley's guardian after all, and Kid Flash knew how lazy he was. If it weren't for him running errands, Shirley would definitely have been responsible for the task. Shirley, who had just recovered from a serious illness, was not suitable for these things. The Speed Force was deployed, and Kid Flash disappeared. Speed Force is so convenient, Lizu sighed, and turned on the TV. Last night, the toy gang and the 100 twins had a large-scale fight near the Merchant Bridge. 20 people were injured, and a total of 50 people were detained by the police who arrived later. Lizu. Crackling, arcs of electricity spread from the air, and static electricity spread to Lizu's body, but the invisible telekinesis isolated the slight invasion of the current. Breakfast. Kid Flash proudly placed the breakfast on the table in front of Lizu. But Lizu's exclamation did not come. Instead, he stared at the TV in a daze. He looked at the TV. "Damn toy gang." "You know the toy gang?" Lizu asked. "He just had a long sleep. Who knows what happened to this city and why a toy gang suddenly appeared. Gotham already has its own toy man. The emergence of a new force must not have the same name. No one wants their name to be collided with others. It's the gang of that damn toy man." Kid Flash gritted his teeth, as if he wanted to skin the toy man and break his bones. Lizu bent down and opened the breakfast bought by Kid Flash. Now he felt relieved. No matter who wanted to borrow the name of Toyman, at least one thing was certain, the other party was not as good as Toyman. Otherwise, wouldn't it be simpler to just drop from the sky like Superman? He took a bite of breakfast. A gang formed by Toyman? Kid Flash nodded. Yes, it's the crime king of Gotham. I will catch him one day. Lizu glanced at Kid Flash and nodded. I wish you success. Chapter 319. The Toyman is about to be taught a lesson by the Toy Gang. Todd Kincaid had just sent his child to school and return home. A figure had been waiting for him right at the door, with one leg on the ground and his back against the wall. He was thin and wore a thick brimmed hat that completely covered his face. "You're back." The other party raised his head, lifted the brim of his hat with his right hand, and showed a weird smile. The Joker. Todd Kincaid's eyes twitched. No one will forget this face. The Joker in poker is his representative. The clown face of the circus is also his macup. And he is more like a person who pursues jokes. He was also the crime king of Gotham. But, shouldn't the Joker be dead? What do you want to see me for? Todd secretly clenched his left fist, and his strength quickly accumulated, waiting for an instant of explosion. It is definitely not a good thing for the Joker to find him. Batgirl has found you, the other party said. What do you want to know? Todd Kincaid became more cautious. The other party came to the door with a purpose, and it was definitely not just a small talk. Nothing. I just want to know, what does she want to do with you? She wants to catch Pigface. Todd Kincaid did not hide it. The Joker put on his hat again. Then you can definitely do me a favor. You also want to meet Pigface? Todd Kincaid seemed to have thought of something, and he realized, you are not the Joker. No, I'm the other party brushed past Todd Kincaid. Every one of us is. At noon, Batgirl, dressed in black, was hiding on the rooftop, staring at the meeting place agreed by Todd Kincaid and Pigface. This preparation took Batgirl too much energy, and she had to catch Pigface as soon as possible. Let the madman wander around outside. The longer the time, the more innocent victims there will be. Here I come. Todd Kincaid's car stopped downstairs, and Batgirl spotted him at the first time. He watched Todd Kincaid walk into the building, and a few minutes later, Todd Kincaid appeared next to the window that Batgirl could observe. Soon, a figure walked out, and the figure looked like Pigface. Batgirl spread her glider, dived down, and headed straight for the window. With her body curled up, and her glider retracted, she smashed the window, and rolled into the room. Sorry, Batgirl, I have no choice. She stood up quickly, but what awaited her were the dark muzzles of dozens of guns and Todd Kincaid's apology. Now she had no doubt that Todd Kincaid must have colluded with Pigface to catch her. Pigface will make you perfect, Batgirl. Pigface rubbed his hands excitedly. The Batgirl who came to his door made him very happy, and the pig kept calling. But dozens of hundred twins who held guns and wore white doll masks without saying a word did not waver at all. As Pigface waved his hand, they immediately opened fire. Bang 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 bang. The dense rain of bullets instantly attacked Batgirl. Although she dodged and rolled at the first time, the bullets still hit her body, and a series of blood flowers were shot out. There were bulletproof vests on important parts of her body, which ensured that she did not die in the dense rain of bullets at the first time. Batgirl rolled onto the sofa and hid behind it. Bullets rained down on the sofa like a rain curtain. A delicate sofa was instantly turned into honeycomb coal. Ding, Gilulu, a bat smoke bomb rolled out from behind the sofa, spewing choking smoke. In order to prevent Batgirl from hiding in the smoke and escaping, the bullets were fired randomly instead of activating the sofa. Batgirl took advantage of the chaos to turn over and escape from the broken glass. The rope dragged Batgirl to the ground. She covered her bleeding abdomen and quickly left the area. Batgirl was only wearing underwear. She bit a towel and held a sterilized tweezers in her hand to remove the bullet from her abdomen. Ding. The bullet fell into the tray. Batgirl almost fell to the ground without any strength, but she still managed to sew up her wound, and during this period, she did not use anesthetics. Todd Kincaid's cooperation with Pigface was unexpected, and anesthetics would interfere with her next actions. Batgirl did not intend to be injured, so she just rested well. She had too many things to do. After the last stitch was done, Batgirl cut the thread and sat on a chair, her chest rising and falling. She was trying to regain control of her body from the pain. Lizu turned over and jumped onto the roof. It was noon. The sun was very hot, but the air was very cold. The winter sun is not as gentle as the summer sun, but fortunately spring is coming. What did the toy gang find out? Behind him, a dark shadow appeared. The assassin of the Assassin's League stood upright in the shadow of the roof. The toy gang is related to the Joker. The Joker? Lizu was extremely sure that the Joker was dead. If the Joker was not dead, a laughing bat could not be created. But he did not doubt the assassin's investigation level. We found out that among the people who secretly guided the toy gang's actions, there were former members of the Joker gang. Those crazy people. The Joker gang was by no means a group of bastards who just followed the Joker's orders. The Joker was like a toxin. He would make everything around him laugh wildly, and among them, the members of the Joker gang would definitely not escape the fate of being infected by the spirit. Let's leave it at that. Lizu had no interest in the so-called toy gang, but he could tell at a glance that someone was using his name to stir up trouble outside. With Lizu's trouble-averse personality, as long as he could find out the person behind the scenes and kill him directly, he could solve all the troubles. But if he really wanted to investigate the whole story, he was too lazy to do it. Where is the thing I asked you to find? The assassin replied, Lex Luthor has it, but he's not sure where he's hiding it. He really has it. Lizu was not surprised. Even if I ask him to take it out now, he definitely won't give it to me, and the thing has two obvious flaws. Lizu jumped lightly and jumped off the roof. His body did not fall straight down, but fell lightly. Although he couldn't fly, it was not difficult to glide with the blessing of telekinesis. Dreams have become the best place for Lizu to collect. The infinite trial and error of not fearing death can bring him too much. Moreover, what the final direction of those diaries is, and whether there is really no living person in the second dream, still needs to be investigated. There is an alley near the toy store. Lizu fell from the sky and landed in the alley. There were 7 gang members gathered here. They were dressed casually, with jackets, suits, baseball uniforms, down jackets, and everything else. They seemed to be from all walks of life. In their hands, they held different toys. They didn't notice Lizu falling from the sky, but the sound of Lizu landing was discovered by the 7 gang members who were secretly talking about something. The 7 people's faces changed. The black man with dreadlocks, baseball uniforms, and a toy spoon raised his chin to Lizu. Do you know who we are? Lizu took a look at the toys in the hands of the 7 people and said tentatively, are you from the toy gang? You know we are from the toy gang, but you dare to come over. Today I must teach you what to do and what not to do. The man in the jacket pulled out a short knife and walked towards Lizu step by step. It seems that joining the toy gang has given these low-level bastards who usually do things with their tails between their legs a chance to stick their tails up. My own gang is actually going to teach me a lesson. What should I do about this? Chapter 320 Out of Control City. Several people formed a semicircle and gradually approached Lizu. The blade reflected the light, shining brightly, as if it was also reflecting the cold winter sun. The toy man was about to be taught a lesson by the members of the toy gang. If he told others about it, they would laugh their heads off. Lizu put his right hand in his pocket. He always carried a few small toys with him. After all his skills were in toys. With his fists and feet, he could only compete with a few mercenaries at most. Crackling, a yellow lightning flashed suddenly, and the toy gang members who were approaching seemed to be hit by an invisible car, staggering and falling to the ground. A short figure wearing a yellow uniform with a Flashpoint logo on his chest appeared in front of Lizu, jogging a few steps and slowing down his speed. Fortunately, I came fast enough, store manager. The person who came was Flashboy, and he waved his hand at Lizu. Lizu took his hand out of his pocket and glanced at the toy gang members who were groaning on the ground. Fortunately you are here. It saved some energy. Kid Flash said, I came back to find you. I just found you blocked in the alley by these guys, so I ran over. Come back to find me? Obviously Kid Flash didn't know that the lazy store manager who needed Shirley's care in his eyes was the same person as the toy man in Gotham City. Kid Flash nodded. 2 groups of people were fighting, one of which seemed to be the toy man's men. Our school was forced to suspend classes, and all the students hid in the gymnasium. I took the opportunity to escape. He advised Lizu. I was worried that something would happen to you. Shirley would definitely be worried at that time, so I rushed over. Fortunately, I arrived. Kid Flash patted his chest, as if he was still happy that he arrived in time to save Lizu. The 100 Twins and the toy gang are at war. Lizu turned around and walked in the opposite direction. He was a person who was too lazy to pursue fame, but someone was using the name of the Toy Man to make trouble in this city, so he had to go and see. Lightning flashed and blocked Lizu's way. The Flash boy advised earnestly, "Manager, it's very dangerous outside. You should go back to the toy store and hide. By the way, I still need to go out and save people." After saying that, without giving Lizu time to speak, the Flash boy had already turned into a flash of lightning and disappeared at the end of the street. Lizu stopped and turned around to look at the gang members who were lying on the ground and screaming. He pulled out a keychain with more than a dozen guns hanging on it, and without exception, all of them were heavy firepower weapons. He grabbed the keychain and threw it, and a heavy machine gun was raised in his hand. The dense gun holes like honeycombs pointed at the gang members wailing on the ground. "Who can take me to my gang to have a look?" The huge circus, screams and beautiful singing mixed together. An operating table was placed horizontally on the concrete floor, and the huge stage lights of the circus illuminated the 10 square meters around the operating table. The man in an apron and a pig-faced mask held a long knife, and in his left hand was a rotating electric drill, buzzing. Ah. Ah. The electric drill pierced the tightly bandaged man on the operating table. The man howled in pain, but did not move, as if his mouth and body were two completely independent parts. Failure. Failure. Pigface hates failure the most. Pigface wants to succeed. Pigface is God. Pigface will kill you. The electric drill was raised in the Pigface's hand, and then pierced again, making blood holes on the man's body. It was not until the screams completely subsided that the Pigface stopped, panting heavily. In the dark corner outside the light, a man trembled as he watched this scene. He clenched his left arm, wanting to say something, but did not dare to step forward. "Tot, tot," the Pigface suddenly shouted, and the man did not dare to wait any longer, and took 2 quick steps into the light. "Why did so many 100 fetuses die?" the Pigface asked unceremoniously. The electric drill, which was covered with blood and flesh, was still buzzing and spinning non-stop, and blood splashed on Todd's face. "It's the Toy Gang. Toy Gang." Pigface was obsessed with body transformation all day long, and was unfamiliar with this name. The largest underground gang in Gotham City today is led by Toyman. Todd Kincaid searched his head for information, but in the end he couldn't find much information about Toyman. In the limited actions of the other party, he neither showed excessive strength nor strong intelligence, nor madness. Todd even thought that the other party was just taking advantage of the lack of successes in the most evil forces in Gotham. Moreover, is the Toy Gang really in the hands of Toyman? He already had the answer in his mind. Huff, huff. Toyman Pigface was like a domestic pig eating bran, grunting and mumbling something. Switch to the next one, the next one. Pigface quickly threw the previous chat behind his mind. He howled loudly, and 2 masked centipedes came with clothes stretchers, carried away the dead and cold body, and replaced it with a new one. The person who was carried over could not move except for his mouth. Forgive me, forgive me. He was lying on the operating table with blood still wet. Buzz buzz, the electric drill turned quickly. Pigface will make you perfect. Todd Kincaid turned his head away reluctantly. Ah. The big iron gate opened, and gang members dressed in colorful clothes came out in a swarm, more than 80 of them. With so many people, what do the Toy Gang want to do? The woman observed from the dark and said, "I guess they want to start a war with the 100 Twins. Then you should stop that group of people as soon as possible. If they really fight on a large scale, the city will be in complete chaos." She was entangled. "I know that. If I miss this opportunity, the bastards hiding in the Toy Gang will definitely become more aggressive." The voice came again. "Their target is not Pigface. They are going to mess up the city." The woman took a deep look at the chemical plant building, rode on the motorcycle, turned around and rushed towards the city. If the city falls into a riot, no one can control it. Chapter 321. Unless Superman falls from the sky. But a motorcycle passed by Lizu at a speed that was almost close to the ground. Lizu glanced sideways. Hunter? He recognized who the driver was. Unsure why the other party was in a hurry to leave, he turned to look at the guide who was lowering his head. How far is it? Almost. Mike, a gang member wearing a jacket, lowered his head. Sweat had soaked his clothes, and the cold wind poured into his neck, piercing his body. It's just in front of him. Mike pointed to the chemical plant not far away. After putting down his hand, he looked at Lizu timidly again, and quickly lowered his head to lead the way. The person in front of him can turn toys into real things, and from contact, whether it is a little mentally abnormal or the identity of a yellow man, it is very consistent with the toy man. Can the toy man turn toys into real things? It should be possible. Otherwise, why is it called a toy man? Although before this, Mike always thought that the toy man was just a name, just like a scarecrow. It may not be really made of straw. The two walked to the front of the chemical plant. They had come by car, but halfway through the journey, they encountered a riot by the toy gang in the city, and traffic was completely paralyzed. It was Mike who took the initiative to lead Lizu out of the city. The gate of the chemical plant was open a crack, enough for one person to walk through. Come and see my lair. Lizu also found it interesting that someone had used his fame to form a gang while he was sleeping, and there was a huge abandoned chemical plant as a foothold. Is he a good person? He never shows mercy when killing people. Whether it is Iron Man or Batman, the superheroes of both worlds did not classify him as a superhero, even though he saved the world from aliens in the Marvel world and protected the multiverse from the laughing bat disaster in the DC world. Stay away. Lizu waved his hand. Mike hurriedly dodged when he heard the order, fearing that Lizu would take out some weapons of mass destruction and accidentally hurt him. Then he saw Lizu take out a keychain from his pocket again, which was hung with a dazzling array of plastic toys. The texture of plastic toys is very rough. If they are placed in the hands of children over 3 years old, they will definitely not be liked by children under 3 years old. For children under 3 years old, the outer packaging should be labeled not recommended for purchase under 3 years old. Be careful of swallowing by mistake. Lizu kicked the door and opened the heavy door a little. He shook the keychain in his hand, and the individual rocket launcher was placed on the ground. Puff, 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 puff. 4 rockets arced and hit the abandoned chemical plant in the distance, smashing out a huge cloud of fire. Mike, who was hiding on the side, watched this scene with his eyelids twitching wildly. Those were rockets, surface-to-air weapons, and completely military-grade weapons. Once upon a time, only the Joker used similar means on Christmas, when he just debuted, and blew up several buildings. Mike looked at Lizu's pocket again. There were obviously a lot of things in his pocket. Could it be a small arsenal inside? Would there be nuclear bombs? Lizu shook his head. What a pity, the nuclear bombs were used last time. Really? The man suddenly remembered that the metropolis evaporated more than half a year ago. It was said that it was caused by nuclear weapons. Now the ruins of the metropolis are still barren. Thinking of this, he trembled even more, but as his body trembled, a little excitement rose in his mind. This is a big tree. The other party may be a toy man, but he has nothing to do with the toy gang. If he can hold on to this big tree, will he have a chance to reach the top of this city? Bang! Exclamation mark. In response to him, a rocket bomb exploded a few hundred meters away, and the flame rolled up a heat wave, whistling and flying, burning his face. Mike was even knocked to the ground by the heat wave, and fell hard on his buttocks. Although his buttocks hurt, Mike was excited. The stronger the boss he could follow, the brighter his future would be. With such a big commotion, the people in the chemical plant could no longer hide. Sporadic gunshots rang out. The bullets were not accurate, and most of them hit the surrounding iron gates, knocking out sporadic sparks. It should be because Lizu's rocket launcher swept the floor too suddenly, and the people in the chemical plant were confused, and they only thought of counter-attacking now. Lizu pushed open the door and walked towards the chemical plant. Wait, Mr. Toyman. Mike looked at Lizu, who walked into the chemical plant in the hail of bullets, and wanted to stop him, but he saw Lizu walking forward step by step. His body quickly transformed, and his clothes disappeared out of thin air, turning into a strong green giant. His bones protruded outward, like heavy armor. There were hideous bone spurs on his joints, not much different from the doomsday reported in the news. Which floor is the meeting on? Lizu turned his head and asked. 8.8th floor. Lizu nodded, took a step, and stomped on the ground. His body had already shot out, and headed straight for the 8th floor. Boom! Exclamation mark. As soon as the ground exploded, the 8th floor in the distance also exploded. The distance of several hundred meters was crossed in just a blink of an eye. Although the body of hatred is not the strongest force in this universe, there are few on this planet that can stop it. Lizu casually swung his hand, and the two gang members who fired the gun were knocked away and smashed against the wall, and their lives and deaths were unknown. He also wanted to use telekinesis, but his telekinetic barrier could not block bullets. The whole floor had a lot of power, but under the fist of hatred, everything was like paper, and was easily torn apart. Meeting room, bang. The door was kicked away by the green foot, and turned into a straight line into the wall. The bastard sitting at the door was very unlucky. He was smashed into the wall with the door and his life and death were unknown. Lizu lowered his head, and walked into the meeting room. His green eyes easily took in the situation in the meeting room. The people sitting in the meeting room were all wearing clown makeup. Lizu couldn't help but grin, and with his hateful face, he couldn't be called friendly. The clown gang, so this is what it is. Ha 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 ha, toy man. The man sitting in the main seat laughed and looked a bit like a clown. The clown gang borrowed the name of Toy Man to form the toy gang. As for why they did this, the clown gang is not for making money. This group of bastards who carry out the will of the clown are just like the clown. They only hope that the city will become bad and chaotic, because that is enough fun. Whether the hostile forces are the centipedes or the riddle gang. Do you like the toy gang we prepared for you? Asked a member of the clown gang. Poof. A fountain pen on the table flew up and pierced the head of the member of the Joker gang who was talking. Lizu only then answered, I don't like it. His killing behavior did not scare anyone present, as these people were poisoned by the Joker. You are too late. The city will fall, and the whole city is already in riots. Another member of the Joker gang said, whether it is Batgirl, Huntress, or you, no matter who it is, don't think about it. There is a projector in the meeting room. This group of psychologically twisted guys are watching the city fall into despair through the cameras in the city. Unless Superman falls from the sky. The Joker gang member said. Unless Superman falls from the sky. The next moment, in the projector video, a red cloak fell from the sky and hit the center of the chaos. Chapter 322 John Rambo. Hundreds of people poured into the Gotham City area, running from the east to the west of a street, and when they ran out, the number had increased to 300. The shouting and screaming scared ordinary citizens so much that they dared not move. 300 people soon grew to thousands, and thousands of people condensed into 3,000 people, an unprecedented riot. The Gotham Police Department immediately deployed police forces for defense, and the anti-explosion force was not stingy at all. The police holding anti-explosion shields walked into the streets and alleys, but looking at the citizens who were pouring in like a tide, the police holding anti-explosion shields were as weak as weeds in the winter night. The formation was torn apart in an instant. The city has gone crazy and fallen into complete madness. The Huntress squatted on the roof, holding a crossbow, but even she felt very powerless when looking at the scene in front of her. This is no longer a problem that a superhero can solve. Someone chopped red-eyed. The first handful of blood was a signal, and then someone couldn't help but take action. The second, the third. Hunter, something is approaching in the sky. Alfred's voice came. In the sky. The Huntress looked up. Gotham's sky is always covered with thick clouds, especially on cloudy days. But now, the thick clouds were torn apart by a force, and the sun shone through the torn clouds, and shone on the rioting streets. She squinted her eyes and roughly saw the figure. The blue battlesuit, the red cape, and the S logo on the chest were so eye-catching. Superman. The Superman who should have died actually fell from the sky. Boom! Exclamation mark. The flying man who looked like Superman fell from the sky. His red boots hit the ground, and his red cape shook and raised a gust of air, blowing away the rioters on the street. The gust of air swept across, and the female hunter squatting on the roof squinted her eyes, and her body was also shaken by the wind. So powerful. she exclaimed. The gust of air generated while landing alone overturned thousands of people. He is worthy of being a superhero who was once called the god of the world. The other party has proved from the side that he is very likely to be Superman. Superman's appearance was beyond everyone's expectations. The people who were slashing randomly just a second ago stood still on the street, and the air became quiet for a moment. Wars and riots will not end because of a certain person, but there is a premise. If the participants are strong enough, so strong that they affect everyone and cannot resist, then the above statement is not true. Strength is everything. Lizu stood in the conference room, watching the live broadcast. As shocked as he was, the members of the Joker gang were also shocked. This group of crazy freaks who rushed into the chaos were also scared to move when they saw Superman falling from the sky. Superman? Is it Superman from another multiverse? Without Metropolis, Superman fell from the sky again. Did Superman decide to take over Gotham? This is definitely the worst news for Lizu. The reason why he can live in peace in this world until now is that the annihilation of the Justice League has played a big role. If the Justice League is still there, he must be staying in Blackgate Prison or Arkham Asylum. What happened next was beyond everyone's expectations. Superman just paused for a while, as if he had discovered something, and got up and flew into the air. He blew up the sound barrier in the air, wrapped in a white circle, and completely disappeared in the sky above Gotham. It was as if he just passed by chance. But in any case, this battle that was about to sweep the entire city ended in vain because of the appearance of Superman. Mike waited outside the chemical plant for a long time, looking at the big hole torn on the building, as if he saw a mythical miracle coming. But there was no sound from inside, and Mike mustered up the courage to walk through the gate of the chemical plant. Fortunately, there was no counterattack. He walked into the building, not daring to take the elevator, but chose to climb the stairs. Although Lizu jumped up the stairs in one step, Mike still used a lot of effort to climb the stairs, which took more than 10 minutes. The door of the conference room disappeared, but there was still some movement in the conference room. Mike quietly approached and looked into the conference room. Lizu was the only one standing in the conference room. He was lying on the sofa, and people around him fell to the ground, and they didn't know whether they were dead or alive. Hiss, Mike took a deep breath. Although he knew how powerful the Toyman was, he was still shocked to see that the other party had knocked down the headquarters of the Toy Gang in just a few minutes. But it didn't feel right to say it like that. Toyman took down the headquarters of the Toy Gang. Mike racked his brains and came up with the most appropriate sentence. Boss, what should we do now? Toy Gang, interesting. Mike's eyes lit up. If Toyman was interested in this gang, it meant that Toyman would be in charge of the Toy Gang in the future. What do you want? Order? Lizu glanced at the members of the Joker gang lying on the ground. Although he had experience dealing with superheroes, he had no experience managing a gang. Crime? Those illegal activities were hard to arouse his interest. Power. The toys in his box were the most powerful power. He also had the Assassin's League in terms of information collection. Solve the riot first, and then, oh, by the way, I'll distribute toys. Lizu thought of a very good idea. His plan to guest star as Santa Claus to deliver toys on Christmas was aborted, but the appearance of the Toy Gang just solved this problem. Toys? Mike's eyes were hot, and he rubbed his hands. Those were Toyman's toys, which could be transformed into various powerful weapons, and put a rocket launcher in his pocket. What this meant was self-evident. The prop box fell from the sky and hit Lizu's feet. Bang, the box suddenly fell from the sky, frightening Mike to shrink back, and he was relieved when he saw that it was a box. Take them there, Lizu picked and chose in the prop box, and finally took out a big box and handed it to Mike. What is this? Mike held the box and became nervous. Since it was something Lizu handed to him, he naturally had to open it. Mike couldn't wait any longer. He tore open the paper shell, revealing the outer packaging inside. Toys? Mike shouted excitedly. He had never wanted to get a toy so strongly, and everything seemed to go back to the first night he put a sock at the head of the bed, since he could remember. That time, Santa Claus did not put the thing he wanted most in it, but his mischievous brother put a dead mouse in it. Now seeing the toys, his surprise seemed to make up for that disappointing Christmas Eve. 60 toy soldiers. He read the introduction on the outer packaging carefully. First Blood Soldier series contains 4 helicopters and 10 armored vehicles. There was also a small sticker on the side, which read, "This is a collector's edition, with a John Rambo soldier." John couldn't wait to open the paper shell packaging, and there were indeed 61 toy soldiers inside, all no bigger than a little finger, and there were also armored vehicles and helicopter toys as big as fists. Made of uniform green plastic, it was not exquisite. The next moment, the soldier twisted his neck and stood up. 60 soldiers lined up and walked out of the packaging, neatly arranged in a square formation. Mike looked at the toy soldiers who looked like living people and felt extremely fresh for a while. His neck suddenly felt cold, and he turned his head to see that Rambo had climbed onto his shoulder without knowing when. Rambo gestured with the saber in his hand, which was shorter than a fingernail, and threatened Mike, "Lead the way." Mike subconsciously looked at Lee Zhu. "See you in a week." Lee Zhu, who was used to being a hands-off boss, ignored Mike's words and jumped down the stairs. "Boss, walk slowly." Mike was full of ambition, but then he became discouraged. These toys were only the size of fingers. What use could they be? Chapter 323. Perfect work. As if guessing what Mike was thinking, Rambo jumped down from his shoulder and his body instantly grew bigger. He turned into a tough guy in an instant. "Lead the way." Rambo looked at Mike with cold eyes. Mike shuddered and nodded vigorously. Okay, I'll lead the way right away." After leaving the chemical plant, Lee Zhu's figure was indeed no longer visible. After sighing in his heart that he was elusive, Mike got on the soldier's off-road vehicle and headed straight for the city. Bang! The female hunter kicked the 2 people who tried to pounce on her with a whip kick and gasped twice. "Hunter, I suggest retreating first," Alfred said. She shook her head. "We can't retreat. The purpose of this group of people is very clear, to mess up the city. The army is coming." The female hunter turned over, climbed the windowsill with both hands, and used her hands and feet together, like an elegant lizard, swaying her waist, and quickly reached the roof. In broad daylight, if someone didn't look carefully, almost no one would be able to find the female hunter lying on the roof. The army? She watched the fully armed soldiers jump out of the armored vehicle. Almost instantly, they suppressed the scene with their gun advantage. 50 or 60 people actually controlled thousands of people. Special forces? The female hunter stared at one of them. "That person looks familiar. Number 1, help me retrieve the information." Mike, a low-level gangster in Gotham City, used to be a security guard, but lost his job because of his dirty hands and feet. After that, he worked as a subordinate of the Riddler, the Joker, the Scarecrow, etc., and became a low-level thug. The most interesting information in his record: when he was a child, his brother stuffed a dead mouse in his socks. His brother was a doctor in Arkham and died in a Scarecrow riot. Some people speculated that he indirectly caused it. The female hunter didn't say anything else. No matter who Mike was working for, the best situation at the moment was that someone could finally solve the riot. "Hunter, I see another person who looks familiar." "Who?" "The special forces soldier with a headband. Looks like the one in the movie." Alfred obviously didn't watch movies often, so even if he saw a familiar figure, he couldn't call out the name at the first time. Movies? Huntress had been training since she was young and had never relaxed. She almost never participated in time-wasting things like movies. Batgirl once again went out to fight. She had heard a little about the disputes during the day, whether it was the toy gang losing control and wanting to mess up the city, or Superman suddenly falling from the sky, or a group of soldiers of unknown origin stabilizing the situation. The reason why the toy gang grew stronger was largely due to the actions of Pigface. Pigface was the fuse that brought out the dark side of the city. The cape fluttered and carried Batgirl to the old place. Todd Kincaid? She saw the man again. The one who betrayed her. Batgirl dived from the roof like diving. The moment she approached Todd Kincaid, her cape opened and turned into bat wings, buffering her landing speed. When she was within an acceptable impact range, Batgirl folded her cape and put her legs on Todd Kincaid's back. Bang! There was a sound. Todd Kincaid, who was walking on the street, was knocked to the ground. Batgirl? Unexpectedly, the other party spoke first. "We meet again, Mr. Kincaid." Even Batgirl, who has always been a hero, couldn't help but increase her tone and hit Todd Kincaid's back with her knee when she saw Todd Kincaid, who betrayed her again. Todd Kincaid didn't care about that and just cried, "Batgirl, please, save Kimmy, please." Batgirl was on guard against another trick of the other party, but her kindness made her let him go and asked, "Who?" "My son, Kimmy. Have you seen him?" Todd Kincaid didn't struggle. "After I saw you, the Joker gang came to me." "Joker gang?" Batgirl was a little nervous. After more than half a year of training, she was no longer a novice, but it didn't mean that she didn't hate the group of lunatics in the Joker gang. The top leaders of the toy gang are the Joker gang. Those lunatics threatened me with Kimmy and wanted to know what we talked about. Children are a person's weak spot, and Batgirl didn't intend to blame Todd for this reason. The Joker is dead, but those lunatics still have the same crazy brains as the Joker. They want to make the city more chaotic, so they take the initiative to provoke Pigface. "I betrayed you and hurt you. I'm sorry, Batgirl, but they threatened me with Kimmy, and I couldn't do anything." Todd was heartbroken. Batgirl could hear something unusual from Todd's tone. She didn't speak, but listened to Todd Kincaid continue. "I helped them and completed their mission. They should return Kimmy to me, but Todd gritted his teeth, and it was obvious how painful he was. Batgirl still didn't speak, waiting quietly. Kimmy fell into the hands of Pigface, and his life and death are uncertain. Todd knelt to Batgirl. "Please save Kimmy." The air became quiet. A minute later, Batgirl broke the silence. "Tell me Pigface's lair, and everything you know." Batgirl rushed into the night, and the night perfectly embraced the black battlesuit. Except for the slight sound of the cloak shaking in the wind, there was almost no trace of it. Batgirl stopped at a circus. "I hope you didn't lie to me this time, Todd Kincaid." Batgirl removed the glass and rolled forward into the window. The circus, which had no lights on and only the moonlight illuminating the dim path, had become Batgirl's territory. The only trouble in the dark night was the centipedes, a group of monsters that were not afraid of pain and had almost no weaknesses except death, guarding several doors. Batgirl did not intend to alarm the centipedes. As long as she had not made up her mind to kill, disturbing the centipedes would only alert Pigface. After bypassing the centipedes and sneaking into a room for the third time, Batgirl finally found a little white mouse caught by Pigface. But Kimmy Kincaid was not found here. "Huff, huff, you are a perfect work. A perfect work." There was a huffing sound in the corridor in the distance, and Batgirl immediately turned over and hid on the ceiling. Seeing the Pigface so close at hand, Batgirl wanted to jump down and catch him, but she also knew that saving people was the most important thing compared to the troublesome 100 twins. Batgirl went into the room where the Pigface left. The room was not big, with only an operating table inside. A thin figure wrapped in bandages lay on the operating table, with no movement except for the rise and fall of his chest. Obviously, this was the Pigface's perfect work. Chapter 324. There is only one king of Gotham. He is. Todd Kincaid looked at the short figure on the bed and didn't dare to approach. Instead, he looked at Batgirl. Batgirl said, "Pigface has already taken action. He is Kimmy." Todd couldn't believe it. At that moment, his body strength was drained, and he knelt on the ground. "I will help you contact the best doctor." "It's useless." Todd interrupted Batgirl and shook his head vigorously. "Pigface's surgery is human body transformation, cutting off certain organs of the human body and turning the human body into another monster. He can't be cured." Todd Kincaid trembled and staggered towards the figure on the bed. The thin figure lying on the bed had blank eyes, like a heavy hammer, hitting Todd's heart hard. "Dad, Mom said you are a soft egg." Kimmy's voice sounded in Todd's mind. Batgirl only left one sentence. "Sorry, I will catch Pigface. This is my promise." The city is still in danger, and what she is doing now is the last thing she can do. The black cloak unfolded, and Batgirl jumped out of the window, leaving only the father and son in the air. Gotham. Walking north from the alley behind the Grand Theater, there is a group of houses waiting to be demolished, and the excavator has been parked at the door for several days. However, this abandoned building is now bustling with people. Looking down from the broken roof, it is crowded with people, shoulder to shoulder. In the crowd, a man with purple hair and a samurai sword looked up and shouted, "Mike." What are you going to do by calling us here? Hearing his shout, the crowd suddenly quieted down. Most of the old generation of bastards in Gotham have died, and naturally new people have risen. The man known as Wakizashi is the best of this group. He once studied Bushido in Japan, and his swordsmanship is superb. It is said that he can chop bullets with a knife. Yes, Mike, what are you going to do by calling us here? You are just a small fry. Do you still want to rule Gotham? As the Wakizashi was translated into Chinese, several people immediately agreed. The bastard dressed in blue, called Blue Bat, imitated Batman to make his debut, but he didn't like Batman, but admired the Laughing Bat who almost collapsed the whole world. Unlike Batman and the Laughing Bat, Blue Bat likes to talk a lot when killing people, and always mutters something. There is also a woman wearing a pair of steel boots, who also surrounded a circle with a dozen of his followers. In the center of the eyes of this group of people, Mike tugged at his jacket, that he had not changed yet. I should change into a suit. After all, this kind of occasion is my first time, he muttered, looking forward. Hundreds of people. After the Joker gang members in the high level were cleaned up, the remaining people were the higher level members of the Toy gang. Without exception, they were all small forces in Gotham, but they took advantage of the Toy gang to recruit soldiers and quickly formed a team. Ahem, Mike coughed lightly. I'm very grateful that everyone came when he spoke. The scene was still messy. Don't think we are afraid of you just because you have an army. The one who shouted was an old man in a wheelchair. But if anyone underestimated him, he would suffer a great loss. He was a former British MI6 agent. However, it is said that after a mission failed, he was wanted nationwide and lost his entry qualification to return to his motherland. In short, he was deported. Of course you are not afraid of me, but you should still remember our name here, the Toy Gang. He smiled slightly, as if he wanted to learn the calmness and laziness of Lizu in his memory, and his eyelids drooped halfway down. I'm not talented, but now I'm the representative of Mr. Toyman. Ha 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 ha. There was a burst of laughter. Everyone covered their stomachs, fearing that their ridicule was not enough. Mike's temples bulged with veins, and he took a deep breath to suppress the anger in his heart. Look at what this is. He took out a toy soldier from his pocket. Rambo's soldier. Since seeing the power of this toy soldier, Mike has carried it with him. Toys? Ha 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 ha. Do you really think this thing can make us obedient? Or do you think the toy in your hand has some magic that can make us obey your orders? The one who shouted was the Wakizashi. He was one of the strongest people present, and his words naturally aroused the approval of countless people. Although the Wakizashi abandoned the spirit of Bushido, they were also strong. What about Mike? He was just a street thug, and occasionally did some work of extorting protection fees from middle school students. If it weren't for the powerful military team in Mike's hands, no one would even listen to his call. People who came here naturally came for the armed forces in Mike's hands. He does have this magic. Mike threw the toy soldier in his hand, and the toy was thrown high into the sky, drawing a big arc, and the target was the Wakizashi. Humph. The Wakizashi grabbed the knife with his backhand, and gently pushed the knife guard with his thumb, and the samurai sword was unsheathed. Ha! The toy soldier flying above the Wakizashi's head suddenly grew bigger, and turned into a living iron-blooded soldier, holding a saber and rushing down. The situation suddenly changed. Although the Wakizashi was shocked, he was not too panicked. Instead, he used the sword drawing slash steadily. Ding, ding dong. The unsheathed samurai sword hit the saber in Rambo's hand, and sparks flew. Rambo fell from the sky, using the force, plus his strong body. He actually knocked the Wakizashi back a few steps. The Wakizashi looked ugly, stepped on the ground with his right foot, to stop the trend of retreating, and swung the samurai sword. Bang. There was a red blood hole between the Wakizashi's eyebrows. Bang, the body fell to the ground. Rambo half crouched on the ground, and blue veins bulged on his iron red skin. There was a clear red line on his right arm. With his breathing, the red line overflowed with blood, instantly dyeing most of his arm red. But Rambo didn't care about these injuries. He put away his gun, and turned his head to look around. The villains around him pushed away cautiously, and within a radius of 3 meters around Rambo, it became a vacuum zone. This is a toy for the Toyman. Someone saw the problem. Like I said before, Mike bent down, took out the little soldiers in his pocket one by one, and put them on the ground. Every time he took out a toy and put it on the ground, the air became more solemn. I'm Mike, the spokesperson for Mr. Toyman. Looking at the solemn expressions of the people in front of him, Mike smiled brightly. He liked the feeling of suddenly becoming a superior person. He bet right, members of the toy gang. Mr. Toyman gave me a task to solve the riot. I thought about it. Who is the reason for the riot? Of course he knew who the riot came from the members of the Joker gang. But Mike didn't intend to announce that it was the members of the Joker gang who did it all and then let everything calm down. He hoped that he could do better and make Mr. Toyman more satisfied. Pigface. That's right. Mike clenched his fists and shouted, "Kill Pigface and solve the 100 Twins. The toy gang will unify Gotham. There is only one king of crime in Gotham. That's Toyman." Chapter 325 Kryptonian Cell Toys. In the toy store with the door closed, the Flash with broken arms in the hall twisted his body to get rid of the rigid injection molded body. His eyes were wide open and became lively again, and yellow lightning filled his eye sockets. Ha! It's great to wake up. The Flash looked at Lizu, who was fiddling with the toy in his hand. So, you are going to let me help you? Lizu put down the toy in his hand and looked carefully. It turned out to be a spacesuit. I didn't plan to do that. His answer was obviously in response to the Flash's guess. Are you in big trouble? The toy Flash suddenly disappeared, and when he reappeared, there were more than 30 pizzas on the table. He explained, "This is the last time. I have to eat a little more." Superman is back, falling from the sky. Lizu pointed his index finger at the sky. For this planet, the good news is that Superman is back, so the bad news, naturally Superman is back. He always likes that way of appearance. The Flash was not surprised at all and shrugged. Two Flashes appeared on the scene. One opened a can to drink a drink, and the other was still feasting. "This is the ultimate performance of speed," the Flash asked. "So, what do you want me to do for you?" Lizu did not give the specific content, but said, "It's my fault that I made you so unique. My previous toys would not discuss with me. That's a good thing. The more human-like the toys are, the more helpful they are to you, right?" Listening to the Flash's words, Lizu nodded. "You're right. It's time to get down to business. What are you going to do? Tear me apart?" Lizu looked a little lazy when he said this. The Flash's eyes widened. "What did you say? My body can be turned into a toy building block." "Yeah, I know." The Flash nodded. "Turn it into a toy building block, and then reassemble the toy building blocks. You can use it to become other people, and even have their abilities. Although I was also made by you, your ability is really excessive. It's just cleverly used." Lizu said, "This time, it has to be done more thoroughly." "Thoroughly? Yeah, I guess this is definitely not an easy job. I hope you can hold on." A black shadow appeared in the hall, half squatting on the Flash's booth just now. The other person was holding his arms, with a long knife slanted behind his back. "Assassin." Flash turned his head and shouted to the man, "Brother, that's my position." He turned his head and looked at Lizu. "When did you cooperate with the Assassin's League?" It was a chance encounter, and it wasn't a pleasant one. Lizu looked at the assassin. "Where's the stuff?" The assassin handed over a black suitcase. The buckles on both sides of the black suitcase opened, and after 2 clicks, an arm appeared in the box. "Is this Superman's?" "General Zod's," Lizu said. "Under the red sun, the cells completely lost energy. Otherwise, if I just turned it into a toy, I would be drained." Flash took a deep breath. "Do you want to change this thing to yourself? Be a little crazier. I plan to make a Kryptonian toy myself." The energy contained in the Kryptonian's body has doomed Lizu to be unable to make it. He can turn unexploded nuclear weapons into toys, but he can't turn release nuclear mushroom clouds into toys. It's the same reason. Under the yellow star, the energy in the Kryptonian's body has exceeded Lizu's limit, but the Kryptonian who is weak under the red sun is not included in this list. After speaking, Lizu took out a head-mounted electron microscope and handed it to the Flash. The Flash asked, "What should I do?" Although he was given a personality similar to the Flash, he still couldn't disobey Lizu's order. This is the difference between giving life to toys directly and turning humans into toys and then resurrecting. Building blocks. Lizu grabbed the Kryptonian's left arm and turned it into a whole injection molding material, and then turned it into more than 30 blocks, and then changed it into more than 100 small blocks, and then into 800 small blocks. It kept getting smaller and smaller. In the end, the whole arm of the Kryptonian disappeared into the air. It didn't disappear, but the arm was refined too small, and it was completely scattered under the pull of gravity, similar to dust, floating in the air. It should be smaller, but I have no strength left, and my eyes can no longer see clearly. Fortunately, I have understood the body structure of Kryptonians. You need to assemble me. When my brain stops turning into a toy, Lizu's body suddenly changed, just like the thinned Kryptonian arm just now. The whole person turned into a toy and a building block in an instant. The Flash didn't say any more nonsense, and he also understood why Lizu took out the microscope. And the difficulty of this task, the human body turns into a toy in a slight gradual process, and the pervasive gravity will pull the toy like Lizu apart in a very short time, blending into the dust and disappearing. The speed force spread out, and the Flash put on his glasses and disappeared on the spot. He ran back and forth, fearing that he would bring too much wind. Lizu's brain consciousness destined him to not turn into a toy within 0.01 seconds, ensuring that the built toy was not destroyed and reversed again, coming alive. If at the moment of deactivation, the body lacks certain key organs, there is only death. When the toy-like ability is applied to oneself, this hidden danger has always been with him. The role of the Flash lies in this, to ensure that there will be no problem with Lizu's body. In the hall, the Ark exploded in an instant. He was rapidly improving Lizu's body at a speed far exceeding the uniform speed, but not much less than the speed of light. At the last moment, Lizu's idea of turning himself into a fine building block toy at the dust level suddenly reversed. A second later, Lizu collapsed on the ground. The Flash also panted heavily. No one knew whether he had run tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of times. But the lightning that burst out in that instant destroyed the power facilities of the entire toy store and pulled the transformer, shutting down the power of the two streets that formed the intersection. The Flash looked at Lizu in surprise. You look the same. You didn't become Zod. Did you fail? It turns out that the Kryptonians under the red sun have such a bad body. Please help me go out to get some sundae. The door opened, the sun shone, and Lizu raised his head and took a deep breath. He could feel the energy starting to be poured into his muscles, the perfect energy absorption relationship between Kryptonians and yellow stars. The reason why he did not change was that he did not turn himself into Zod, but turned his body muscle tissue into Zod's muscle. At this time, Lizu was maintaining his toyization, and as his body continued to strengthen, the energy required for his toyization became more and more. But the energy in the cells fed back to maintain his toyization state, entering a certain state of balance. It's just that toyization never only consumes physical energy, but also has a strong depletion on mental strength. A few minutes later, Lizu's body trembled and half knelt on the ground. The Flash was a little worried. How are you? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.